Good evening. Welcome to the September 2nd edition of the Downers Grove Village Council meeting. We're glad you've joined us here at Council Chambers this night, or if you're watching at home, we hope you enjoy us on YouTube as well. Rosa, would you, oh, I forgot, we're going to do the Pledge of Allegiance first, but I wanted to mention, I did have a note. In case you just noticed tonight, we do have an executive session coming up. We're going to go from opening this meeting to executive session. I do not expect that to be particularly long, so we hope you all will stick around. It's probably going to be, I don't know, 15 minutes, half hour at the most, probably not that long. But we will be starting this meeting and then immediately leaving briefly. So I just wanted to let everybody know that's happening. Now, we'll begin with the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Now, Rosa, would you please call the roll?
Mayor Barnett,
Here.
Commissioner Sadowski-Fugit,
Here.
Commissioner Gilmartin,
Here.
Commissioner Tully,
Here.
Commissioner Davenport,
Here.
Commissioner Sarver,
Here.
Commissioner Rowe.
Here.
Welcome, everyone. As mentioned earlier, do we have a motion to convene an executive session?
Mayor Barnett, I move to convene in a closed session pursuant to Section 2C2 of the Illinois Open Meetings Act to consider collective negotiating matters between the village and its employees or their representatives.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We will be back shortly. We are reconvened in public session again. We are on to item 5 on our agenda tonight. Item 5 on the agenda, if you're following along. There are 2 proclamations this evening. As has been mentioned before, proclamations are an opportunity for the mayor to try and bring some highlight, spotlight on either issues or subjects or goings-on or individuals in the community that are worthy of a little additional attention. And so we have 2 this evening. The first one concerns Suicide Prevention Month. Whereas according to the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention, suicide is the second leading cause of death among young people between the ages of 10 and 34, and one of the leading causes of all deaths in Illinois. Whereas almost 5 times as many people died by suicide than in alcohol-related motor vehicle accidents. Whereas according to the CDC, the most recent data shows that nearly 50,000 people died by suicide across the United States in 2023, with an additional 1.5 million people attempting suicide. Of those tragedies, white males account for nearly 70% of the deaths, and overall, men die by suicide nearly 4 times as often as women. Whereas just one suicide often impacts hundreds of additional people, including family, friends, coworkers, neighbors, and community members, with 1 in 5 of those affected reporting that the experience had a devastating and lasting impact. Whereas recent statistics indicate that nationwide, more than 2/3 of communities do not have enough mental health providers to meet the level of need. Whereas September is known globally as Suicide Prevention Awareness Month, providing a dedicated time to come together around this difficult topic, raise the visibility of mental health resources and suicide prevention services available in our communities, further the public conversation about mental health, raise awareness of the impact of suicide, help destigmatize the conversation, and help connect those in need with the appropriate support services. Whereas organizations such as DuPage County Crisis Services, NAMI DuPage, and others serve on the front lines of a war that many refuse to discuss, as stigma regarding suicide and mental health issues remain prevalent. Whereas the 988 Suicide and Crisis Lifeline provides free and confidential emotional support by phone and text in English and Spanish to people in suicidal crisis or emotional distress 24 hours a day, 7 days a week across the United States, and has established the hashtag #BeTheOne2 message to help spread the word about actions we can all take to prevent suicide. Now therefore, I, Robert T. Barnett, Mayor of the Village of Downers Grove, do hereby proclaim September 2025 as Suicide Prevention and Action Month in Downers Grove, and encourage all residents to take the time to understand the importance of mental health education, recognize the importance of taking care of ourselves and others, and take proactive steps to care for each other and make suicide help resources, such as the DuPage Crisis Phone Support, BeTheOne2.com, National Suicide Support Lifeline, and others, known to all. Dated the 2nd day of September 2025, Downers Grove, Illinois. Maybe someday we won't have to do that. Second proclamation this evening is Hunger Action Month. Whereas nutrition-related conditions such as heart disease, diabetes, and high blood pressure significantly decrease Americans' lifespans and quality of life, leading to millions of deaths per year and millions of sick, disabled, and cognitively impaired individuals. And whereas food insecurity, the lack of access to healthy foods contribute to the development of various nutrition-related illnesses, and children facing hunger are more likely to experience the developmental delay, difficulties in school, and experience social and behavioral problems. Whereas according to Feeding America, over 1.6 million people in Illinois are facing hunger and nearly 420,000 of them are children. Whereas increased healthy food access and food security in Downers Grove enables residents of all ages, ethnicities, and cultures to lead happier, more productive, and more active lives, helps children to develop to their fullest potential, and supports thriving local communities. Whereas food banks across the country, including the local Fish Food Pantry, West Suburban Community Pantry, People's Resource Center, local churches, and others, work not only to meet the needs of those in our community, but also to raise awareness and bring attention to the issue of hunger and food insecurity, and to encourage involvement in efforts to end hunger in their communities. Now therefore, I, Robert T. Barnett, Mayor of the Village of Downers Grove, do hereby proclaim September 2025 as National Hunger Action Month in Downers Grove, and encourage all residents to find opportunities to donate to, volunteer for, or otherwise help our local food support systems, such as the Downers Grove Fish, West Suburban Community Pantry, People's Resource Center, our local churches, and others, to promote food access and improve food security wherever possible. Dated the second day of September 2025, Downers Grove, Illinois. And just on that note, there are an enormous number of community groups that are working on that very subject, so please find one and see if you can help them. Item 6, minutes of previous council meetings. Is there a motion?
Mayor Barnett, I move to approve the minutes of the Village Council meeting from August 12th, 2025 as presented.
Second.
Any comments or questions from the council? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That passes unanimously. Item 7, public comments portion of the meeting. This is the portion of the meeting where we take public comment on items not on tonight's agenda. So if you're here with something to tell us about or comment on that is not on the agenda, let us know. Agenda items will each have an opportunity for further public input.
Hello, Commissioners. For the record, Marty Sladek, you all know. Having recently stepped down from the Library Board of Trustees, I wanted to take the opportunity to thank all of you for allowing me to do that. It was an honor, it was a privilege. Time for me to pursue some other interests at this point. But since you will be talking later on about boards and commissions, I wanted to urge people in this community to step up and apply for some of these boards and commissions according to your interest, according to your abilities, according to what you want to learn, what you want to give back, what issues you're concerned with. It's a terrific experience. And while there may be some debate about the processes involved in that, I'm grateful for the new connections to my community, for the friends I made on both sides of this dais, and for what I learned about governance at the local level, which I intend to keep involved in one way or another as I move forward. Thank you again. And once again, the list of all those commissions and boards is on the website. Pick one and apply.
Other subjects not on tonight's agenda. Okay, we will continue with the consent agenda. Is there a motion?
Mayor Barnett, I move to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? That passes unanimously. Item 9 is our active agenda. This is the portion of the meeting where we take up subjects which we have taken up at least once before. These are subjects on which we do plan to take action this evening. Is there a motion concerning the provisions of Mayor Pro Tem?
Mayor, I move to adopt an ordinance amending the provisions of Mayor Pro Tem as presented.
Second.
Do we have any audience comments or questions about this agenda item? Okay, council comments or questions? Chris?
Thank you, Mayor. There is a saying that a crooked path still leads to the summit. And what I think began as an effort to seat a Mayor Pro Tem and ensure that future councils would always do the same. Over the past few weeks, it's led me to dig deeper, to reflect on why some of my colleagues here are opposing this resolution and interpret the code the way that they do. It's allowed me to look into what I would argue are the questionable origins of the current code itself. And it's also given me the opportunity to look for new information that makes me think that even the resolution that I've moved tonight may not be what's best for our village. And what is best for our village, despite how some have characterized my intentions, has always been my goal. Given staff input and information and my own research and some discussion with my fellow colleagues, I support changing this code to eliminate this misleading impression of mayoral deference that has been present for years. A presence, I think, that stems from a culture of mayoral deference in Downers Grove that I think has caused our village to, in some cases, govern improperly. I believe it's important to get all of this on the record. I have spent a lot of time looking into this, and I want to share this information in a sincere effort to help us make the right decision tonight. So please bear with me. First, I want to clear up why I think some are misinterpreting the current code. Some are treating this code as if it requires automatic affirmation of the mayor's choice, absent extraordinary cause. Commissioner Tully referenced the concept of rebuttable presumption. I'm still having problems with that one, sir. But as an analogy, not as something that applies legally, because it's a legal term that deals with evidence. However, I think this comparison is not appropriate, as it reinforces a tradition of mayoral deference in Downers Grove that is not grounded in any law. The code does not contain such a standard, nor would it be legally permissible to do so. The code, our code, states that the mayor appoints the pro tem subject to confirmation by the village council. And while the words appoint and confirmation may suggest mayoral preference in everyday language, these terms actually have very specific legal meanings as set forth in the code. Appoint means to nominate, not to assign a duty. More importantly, subject to confirmation requires the council to vote yes or no on that appointment. It is not just an affirmation or a formality, and it does not imply deference. It doesn't, because I'll say it again, it legally cannot. Similarly, the term advice and consent, which the mayor has called a shared power, doesn't appear anywhere in our code. But in law, advice and consent is not casual input or a mere approval. It is a defined check and balance process. One executive authority nominates, and the other confirms or rejects. It's not a sharing of power, but a deliberate separation. Nomination on one side, confirmation, which again means yes or no vote, on the other. And to clarify, advice and consent does not appear anywhere in our code, nor is it intended for situation where the executive lacks independent authority. And that is where I think a lot of this misperception stems from. I think there are many who have a misperception of what the role of the mayor is, or more importantly, the extent of the mayor's powers. I admit I had some of the same misinterpretation, especially before I got onto council and during my first years here. But to be clear, the mayor of Downers Grove, not Bob Barnett, but the role of mayor of Downers Grove possesses no more legislative authority than any other council member. And while the mayor has a number of additional responsibilities, including certain statutory appointments, chairing the Liquor Commission, issuing proclamations, performing ceremonial duties, and of course presiding over our meetings, and declaring emergencies, which is a pretty important one, but worth noting that that declaration is a temporary one that only lasts until the council convenes. These responsibilities do not constitute any more legislative or executive powers. The mayor is not the administrative or executive head of the village. this role belongs to our village manager. The mayor does not have any authority to hire or dismiss staff. The mayor doesn't oversee any departments. He has no veto power. He cannot even make motions or introduce new business items. And although state law designates the mayor as, quote, the chief executive officer, in our form of government, which is council manager, that system, this title functions differently than it might suggest. And the mayor is not elected separately to grant him executive powers or special authority. This is not permitted under our current system of government, which again is council manager. Instead, the separate election reflects the distinction of the ministerial and ceremonial duties and responsibilities associated with the role, which does not include executive functions. This is not a knock on our current mayor or the office, or even a knock on its importance, but it is crucial to state plainly, the mayor is not a unilateral decision maker, nor does he have the powers that exceed the council. The reality is, on every decision, spending taxpayer money, building projects, stop signs, paving, or selecting the mayor pro tem, the mayor is in fact one of 7 of what the state refers to as the corporate authority, which is the council, and he has 1 of 7 votes on that. So in looking at our current code, which must mirror state code, subject to confirmation means subject to a vote, or more succinctly, it means an election. Because regardless of how it's phrased in our ordinance, the state law requires the corporate authority, the full council, to elect the mayor pro tem. By giving deference to the mayor, you are actually diminishing the powers that we have as commissioners, as a council member. Even the notion of giving the mayor nomination, in my view, reduces the authority that I have, or Tammy has, or Martin has, or any of us have to put up a nomination that is allowed by state law. And back in 2001, when this code was originally changed to what it is today, the village attorney then demonstrated a clear awareness of this issue. In his report concerning the proposed code changes, he specifically called out, and I quote, "The council rules provide for the election of a mayor pro tem by the village council. The proposed revisions maintain this council election," unquote. He recognized that any deviation from the council election process could constitute a change in government structure, which would then require a binding public referendum to transform and transition Downers Grove to a strong mayor system. And let's be clear, council manager, strong mayor, these are not adjectives or just descriptive words. They refer to a distinct form of government defined by precise statutory requirements. So, when Commissioner Davenport suggested that he would just as soon make pro tem a mayoral appointment and wondered why the code even included subject to confirmation, it was a great question. I thought sort of the same thing. But the answer is super simple. The code had to be written in a way that did not afford the mayor any more legislative power than the rest of the council. So if my fellow commissioners feel that they wanted to defer to the mayor's appointments out of tradition or personal belief, that's their choice. But it is not right to claim that the code requires it, because it doesn't. Nothing in our council manager government or the state law supports that view. And it is disingenuous to chastise our fellow council members for a no vote when it was their right to do so. There was a response to the assertion that this no vote was without precedent. So I spent a little time researching instances where council members voted against mayoral appointments. And admittedly, such occurrences are infrequent, but the most recent example I could find was particularly relevant to our discussion this evening. On October 3rd, 2017, when Commissioner Tully was serving as mayor and Mayor Barnett was serving as commissioner, the council considered a resolution to appoint individuals to various boards. Among these nominations put forth by then Mayor Tully was a candidate for the library board, which we now all understand should not have been a mayoral appointment according to state law and local code. But at the time, the mayor and council were following a process where the mayor would nominate and the council would confirm, a practice arguably influenced by a prevailing culture of mayoral difference, like what we're discussing tonight. During the proceedings of the vote, then Commissioner Barnett explained his reasons for voting no on all 20 board nominees. He stated, quote on paper, all of the nominees appeared qualified. However, he expressed concerns regarding the process, noting that he was notified of one particular nomination only shortly before the meeting. As a result, then Commissioner Barnett voted no on all nominees, including Mike Davenport, stating, and I quote, "I am charged up here with confirming or not the appointees." Commissioner Barnett noted the need for more transparency in the selection process and stated, quote, "Until such time, I am not going to be able to say yay on any more appointees." So contrary to what the mayor was seeking from those of us who opposed his nomination, he gave no explanation of what made these candidates unqualified or not meeting any standards, and he showed no deference to the then mayor. And while I'm unsure if he kept his promise to vote against future nominations, he did vote no that night due to his dissatisfaction with the process, similar to what Commissioner Sadowski-Fugit expressed her concerns about the current, I should say, our previous mayor pro tem nomination. The 2008 18 Commissioner Barnett exercised the same powers he had then and the same powers we have now. And so despite how some of you may characterize my view on history, I am a big believer in looking to history. To know where you're going, it's helpful to know where you've been. And so why, I think the bigger question is why in 2001 did we go from a council election of the mayor pro tem to a mayor-appointed council confirmation? This, to me, is the bigger question. And I would argue that it was a calculated move to give the mayor more power and to try to give this perception of mayoral deference. It's been mentioned that our current code, as I said, changed in 2001. In what was the equivalent of the first reading council packet, what we all get and what you all see, the then village attorney commented, and I quote, "The council rules currently provide for the election of a mayor pro tem by the village council. The proposed revisions maintain this council election, but provide greater detail regarding when the election is to occur and the powers and duties of the mayor pro tem." And supporting these comments, the drafted resolution at that time, the first draft read, "Within 60 days following any general municipal election at which members of the council are chosen, the council shall elect one of its members mayor pro tem of the council. The mayor pro tem shall serve until such person resigns as mayor pro tem, or as such person is no longer a member of the council, or a successor is chosen at the next election, or until it is replaced by an affirmative vote of not less than 5 members of the council, whichever comes first." So to be very clear, this first draft did not give the mayor any authority to appoint or to unilaterally remove the pro tem. However, by the second meeting, the meeting they took the vote that put this in our code, when the ordinance was voted on, provisions had been added that gave the mayor the nomination and granted the mayor the right to remove that nomination, that pro tem unilaterally. The reason for this change appears to be undocumented. We have asked staff to understand if there's correspondence or memos or anything. There's nothing. During the first meeting, There was actually no discussion introducing the idea that the mayor should assume nomination responsibilities or have unilateral removal powers. This is supported because we have minutes from that meeting which indicate no mention of mayoral appointment or removal. But now, at the second meeting where they were voting on this, the mayoral appointment and council confirmation replaced the previous council election language and process for Mayor Pro Tem. But it also converted this temporary role into a 2-year position, the longest in DuPage standing today. I couldn't find another town in Illinois that had a 2-year Mayor Pro Tem. It converted it from a temporary to a permanent role. And then this combined with the fact that it takes 5 votes to remove that person, but the mayor can just dismiss at will. And it also included additional responsibilities such as managing communications between the mayor and staff and commissioner and helping with agendas. These are structural powers that never should have been in our code. Notably, during that second meeting, again, where they passed this code, this topic was not discussed. There are no emails, no notes, no amended drafts of the ordinance that clarify the reasoning behind this modification. Nevertheless, the new provisions, which we are currently under now, not only included all those powers and the challenge of a 5-vote removal, but granted the mayor the right to appoint and remove. It is evident to me that these changes were implemented as part of an effort to consolidate authority, contributing to the perception and culture of mayoral deference that candidly has persisted. And if that isn't enough to convince you, it is certainly worth noting that the mayor under whose leadership this 2001 and our current power grab of an ordinance was enacted later initiated actions to legally change Downers Grove to a strong mayor government, ultimately getting a referendum placed on the ballot. Luckily, 75% of voters voted no to that. I think that speaks volumes. We are not interested in a strong mayor government. Now, I cannot explain why the council at the time, without discussion or any record that we could find, gave up its right to nominate a candidate. However, it's clear the code never removed the authority of past, current, or future councils to choose the mayor pro tem or to approve or reject nominations. And so when I propose the resolution that's before us tonight, which retains mayoral appointment power, I too was unknowingly perpetuating this culture. So while I wanted to make sure that I had the opportunity to share this information, it does sound like the best option is to replace this proposed resolution and replace our current ordinance and simply point to state law, which would effectively remove the mayor's nomination and removal clause and clearly supports and defines that the council elects the mayor pro tem. I will defer to Commissioner Davenport on that front, but I agree this is the best path forward and achieves what has been my main goal, to make sure we are moving the village forward and are purveyors of good governance. And I look forward to that same discussion when we talk about boards and commissions tonight. And finally, this was not about bad governance. It's not bad governance to challenge things like this. And it's not a petty argument. And let's be honest, this isn't the first time or the last time where strong-minded people will disagree, things will get a little tense, and maybe even a little uncomfortable. But this is how outdated ideology is removed. When I bristle at the idea of how things have always been done, this is what I've been talking about. It is important that power grab attempts like this get scrubbed from our code. And while some of you have felt uncomfortable with the back and forth and the different sides, I get it. But I would argue this is what our responsibility is to our residents, to ensure that we're governing with transparency and fairness. I appreciate the extended time. That's all I have to say for now, but I will have some questions based on the anticipated amendment, which I'll address during that. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Others? Leslie?
I do appreciate all of the work and digging that staff did. I also, after we were having these discussions, wanted to kind of dig back and research how we got here, have some of the context, because it does help then inform how we can improve relations and how we can do things moving forward. So I do agree. It does seem that perhaps going back to the way we did things prior to 2001, whether it be state law or the similar ordinance that we had that mirrored what that looked like, might be in our best interest. But I did also want to echo that I do have concerns with the lack of transparency in 2001 with which this was changed. The fact that we don't have record that there was a discussion with the public as we're doing right now. There was no public comment. There was no comment from the commissioners at the time as to why this was changed. And that is exactly the type of governing that I wanted to get onto council to change so that we could have a little bit more transparency. And that was part of the concern that I had when I was voting the way that I did. So when I made mention of kind of the old way of doing things, the old guard kind of backroom deals that were made in the past, this is an exact example of what I was talking about. Clearly something went on behind the scenes that made this shift in an immense way without any public information now, without any public record, and that was only 24 years ago. This is the exact thing that I want to make sure that we prevent moving forward. And even though I know that this is, rehashing old things from 24 years ago, I do think it's important to get on record what happened so that we can avoid doing something like this in the future. So that is all I have to say, and thank you for the time.
Thank you. Anyone else? Mike?
Yes. So I just want to start off by saying that I too have learned a lot in this process. And in fact, looking back, it's almost amazing that 24 years went by before this happened, because when you look at how it's worded, and it's inevitable that at some point something like this might occur. I have to say, I think we get in a little bit of trouble when we start trying to pretend to understand why somebody's doing something, why they're doing what they're doing. And it's unfortunate there's been some of that in this conversation. I think the mayor made objectively, I think anybody looking outside has nothing to do with Downers Grove and just looked at the qualifications of the people sitting at the dais, that Martin Tully was by far the most qualified person to be appointed. And so I think the mayor did his job. I think it was unfortunate that, Martin, that you felt some questioning of your character and integrity, because your long record of service to this community speaks for itself. And it's something I admire. So thank you for working through this as well. Chris, you do such an excellent job at digging into the details, looking at the history of all this, and trying to understand the whys of how we got here, what we should do. Tammy, that sense of anger, I felt that too. I get it. And in fact, both you and Rob, I have to share with you when you said nothing at that first meeting, it made me a little angry. But in reflection, I can remember first joining a school board 14 years ago and coming into a situation where people were swinging. And I don't think I said a whole lot in the first meeting myself. And so a little bit of empathy and understanding for me. So I can appreciate that. And Leslie, certainly you've endured a lot here in the past, and how relationships have been and not been, and backroom deals, that sort of thing. I don't know, maybe, maybe not, but you certainly have the right to, I mean, that's why it's with the consent of. And so you have the right to say what you feel. So wanted to say that when I entered the meeting, our last meeting discussion about this, I came in here thinking, wow, seems like every time I've been involved in some sort of huge craziness in the elected board in which I'm serving, it has to do with that group of people trying to elect somebody, and everyone has their various reasons why not, and it's you know, everybody has, I think, the best interest of the village at heart up here. That's, I guess, where I want to leave it. When I left the meeting, Rob and I walked out together, and we both kind of said, you know, there's got to be a better solution here. There's got to be another answer, because if we allow things to kind of continue the way they're going, this is something that's going to repeat itself too. So hey, how about we do something different, right? So I'll just say that during the past several months, this council has engaged in acrimony over the mayor pro tem appointment. I would like to lessen the chance that this and future councils are similarly derailed from the important work we've been trusted to accomplish. State law sufficiently governs the succession plan for a mayoral absence. It's no surprise then that most municipalities simply abide by it. As such, I believe our ordinance is unnecessary. In fact, as we've experienced, it's detrimental. The proposed amendment to our ordinance, I said might, I'd written previously, might better define. I think it absolutely would better define the process. But the possibility of unnecessary conflict and diversion from the important work that this commission has to do would remain. And so therefore, I move to substitute the pending motion with a motion to repeal section 217 of the Downers Grove Municipal Code in its entirety. And I'd like to add that my understanding is that the effect of this action would be immediate upon an affirmative vote. Thank you, Mayor.
Second.
Rosa and Enzo, you're clear on the proposed amendment? Any additional conversation on the amendment? Leslie?
Yep, I appreciate this. I think that this takes the politics and any power and any of that out of it, and it, you know, keeps us moving forward and doing the work that we need to do. So I think this is a smart move. Thank you.
Go ahead,
Oh,
Martin.
no, after you.
No, after you.
Martin, go ahead.
Thank you. Thank you, Commissioner. Thank you, Commissioner. Thank you, Commissioner. Collaboration and consensus is the way, ideally, we reach all conclusions. And I think I've lectured many of you about that organization I've been part of for a long time. That is a consensus-driven organization where there are people who are serving in it who, by design, have polar opposite views of the world. I'm not suggesting that's the case here, but in that group, it is designed to have polar opposite views. And the reason why the organization functions so well is because even with polar opposite views, from multiple different perspectives, the work product is a consensus-driven piece that federal judges across the country cite to because it is a consensus piece that doesn't favor one side or another. And oftentimes, the joke is if everyone on every side is equally unhappy with the outcome, it's a pretty good outcome. So I appreciate my colleagues working through this. I like the crooked path to get you to the right place. We'll try not to have crooked paths, but we get to the right place. I appreciated in particular the deep dive into the details and the history because, number one, it underscored for me how important it is to actually remove it all together, because if it wasn't done right in the first place, then it should be fixed. Just for the record, I wasn't here in April of 2001, so I have nothing to do with this.
We're not in there.
I have no idea what the answers are to any of these questions. I was just some fresh, brand new commissioner who was up here and probably was afraid to talk back then too.
Yes.
Yeah, I know, all right. As
Not
difficult as
biased.
you might find
Not
that
sure about
hard to believe. But it also underscores something that I think is important in all aspects. I think we've seen a number of examples of it, this just being one, is that it's never too late to go back and fix something, even if it's been decades of something being done a certain way. That doesn't mean that once you do a little digging and get a little history, you figure out, well, wait a minute, maybe that wasn't the right way to do it all along, and it may have been just working fine despite itself. And that's exactly what was kind of the case here, is it didn't create an issue until now, so nobody had any reason to focus on it. But when those things do become apparent, I think it is incumbent upon us to look at them, and even if we have to go back decades to fix things, sometimes we should fix things. So I think this is a very elegant solution, is what I'll say, and I appreciate those who came together to propose it, and I'm happy to support it.
Chris?
Yeah, just in terms of the state law, as Mike said, I think I'm interested, that would take effect immediately. And the only thing I would add is, and maybe, and I'll ask this as a question just to confirm. According to state law, each time we need a mayor pro tem, the council has an election on that.
That's correct.
Okay. So I don't want to derail this kumbaya moment we're all having here.
But
yeah.
Crooked path.
Trying to straighten the path, but I wonder if there's any value in having at least a 1-year standing pro tem, mostly just for predictability, as opposed to each time having to, nominate and bring up again. I mean, that's the reality of it. Now, maybe that's the letter of the law is that we would have to do that. Maybe there's a way we can do that without a year, but to me, I just feel like it would be helpful to have a predictable knowing who, if the mayor is absent, is going to be leading the meetings, which is basically most of the mayor pro tem. Yeah.
Can I throw my hat in that ring?
Yeah.
I'm going to go back to the collaboration and cooperation. I am entirely confident, particularly with all the love in this room right now. I'm
Yeah.
particularly confident that we could figure that out, and
Yeah.
we would choose in advance who that person would be.
Yeah,
And I'd be in favor of mixing it up.
I think we, yeah.
As well.
As long as we know the mayor's going to be absent, I think
Yeah.
the 6 of
I
us
agree.
can actually communicate and figure out who it can be, and maybe different people can do it.
And I also do think that it doesn't happen often enough that I think it'll
pretty rare.
really be
Yeah,
an
fair.
issue.
I just do think there's some value in that predictability, but if my colleagues think it's a non-issue, when it is, I'll make sure I remind you.
Yes, I'm sure you will. And I will do my best to make sure it doesn't become an issue.
It's on the record. That's fair, that's fair.
Anyone else? I'll just add to this conversation as a reminder that a couple weeks ago when we were talking, I was trying to remind everybody that despite what probably seemed ridiculousness that you watched up here, that people were trying hard and there was good work being done. And this is, I think, an example of that. If you polled each one of us over a cocktail, I'm sure we each have an opinion that might be a little different than where it looks like we're headed tonight. But you see 7 people trying to figure out how to move forward on behalf of the village. That's what you see. And we see that time and time again. And I don't know what the next subject will be. There will be one that has people sideways up here. Bear with us. We are working through it. All right, anyone else? Let's do a roll call vote on this. Rosa, would you please call the roll?
This is on the
Substituted.
amendment.
On the amendment, yes, thank you.
Substituted. We didn't amend, we substituted.
Yeah,
Was it an amendment or was it
It's a
substitute?
substitute.
substitute.
Substitution.
Substitution.
All right, a roll call on the substitution.
Commissioner Davenport,
Aye.
Commissioner Gilmartin,
Aye.
Commissioner Rowe,
Aye.
Commissioner Sarver,
Aye.
Commissioner Tully,
Aye.
Commissioner Sadowski-Fugit,
Aye.
Mayor Barnett.
Aye, substitution passes. Any further comments, final comments? Rosa, please call the roll on the substituted motion.
I don't think you have to, because it's not an amendment.
Yeah.
Can we be clear on what's happening, so especially for the new people, and I'm gonna
There's
be
a
new too.
Difference between substitutions and amendments.
This was a motion to
Okay.
substitute the motion, so we do need an amendment.
Okay.
We still need to call a roll, yeah.
A roll call to affirm that we're going to substitute.
No.
No, that was
That's what we
first.
just-
That's
what
That's what we
did.
just
We've
voted on.
substituted.
That's what we just
Now we're
did.
voting
Now we've
on
gotta
the
approve it.
substituted.
Now we're voting on the substitute one,
Correct.
not the
Right.
original one.
Correct.
Correct.
Correct, thank
Correct.
you.
We made this move.
Okay.
Now we're
I'm gonna
moving.
follow your lead, Mike.
All right.
Or wait,
Oh,
we have
no,
to follow my
no,
lead.
that's been recorded.
Okay. Yeah.
Rosa, please call the roll on the substituted motion.
Commissioner Gilmartin,
Aye.
Commissioner Sadowski Fugit,
Aye.
Commissioner Rowe,
Aye.
Commissioner Sarver,
Aye.
Commissioner Davenport,
Aye.
Commissioner Tully,
Aye.
Mayor Barnett.
Aye, the two passes unanimously. That takes us to item 10 on our agenda, first reading. Yeah, no kidding. Good call, good call.
Well played, slow clap.
First reading, this is the portion of the meeting where we talk about items for sometimes the first time, sometimes the second, third, or 10th time, but these are items on which we do not plan to take formal action this evening. That I'll hand it over to Mayor Fieldman.
Mayor Barnett, there are 4 items on tonight's first reading agenda. The first 2 have to do with community development and planning, so I will turn over the microphone to our Community Development Director, Stan Popovich, for those 2 first items.
Thank you, Manager Fielman. Good evening, Mayor and Council. Our first item on the agenda is a lot reconfiguration of variance at 4909 and 4915 Pershing Avenue. This property is a little bit northeast of the Belmont Road train station here on Pershing Avenue. If we zoom in a little bit, the 4909 and 4915 are on the east side of Pershing Avenue. They are both detached houses and are zoned R3 residential detached house. You can see here on the plat, 4909 is on the north and 4915 is on the south. The 4909 lot is 60 feet wide and the 4915 lot is 120 feet wide, 120 feet wide. 75 feet is the required lot width for an R3 zoning classification. Currently, the house at 4909 has a 4.85 foot existing side yard setback along the north, where 6 feet are required. So this is a non-conforming situation on the setback. And then on this 4915 property, it's a 12-foot required setback, and the existing house is 5.62 feet for the existing side yard setback. The setbacks are based on the lot width, so that's why it's a 6-foot setback for 4909 and 4915 as a larger setback. What the petitioner is proposing to do is to move the property line 30 feet to the south. So then we would create, with the approval of the council, would be 2 90-foot wide lots. The lots would then become conforming lots with the 75-foot lot width. On the north, the existing nonconformity would increase because of the setback increases because of the lot width. Then on the south, the nonconformity decreases because the setback decreases to 9 feet. So when we look at it in finality here, you'd have 2 90-foot wide lots, 1 nonconformity would increase and 1 conformity would decrease, and then the lot nonconformity would go away. And typically you don't see these reconfigurations because it's something administratively that as a staff, as community development director, I'm entitled to do. It's just a matter of cases where these are more unique that come before you as well. In talking with the petitioners as well, there's a discussion and a point in there about the shed having to be removed. That shed that would be on the property line has been removed previously this February, so it would not be an issue moving forward. The Planning and Zoning Commission considered the petition at their August 4th meeting and found that the standards for variance were met and recommended approval of the request. I'm happy to answer any questions the mayor and council might have. Our petitioners are here as well tonight if you have any questions for them. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Stan. Anybody from the audience have a comment or a question about this item? Council comments, questions? Chris, go ahead.
Yeah, I would just say this seems to make sense. I think it was explained to me that we're sort of taking 3 non-conforming things and getting rid of 2 of those, making 2 of those conforming. So it's not my line, but 2 out of 3 ain't bad. I don't see any issue with that. The shed being removed helps me move towards that. I'm fine with this. Thanks.
Yeah.
Anyone else?
Ditto.
Yep.
Ditto.
I'm
Okay.
just curious of how we got here in the first place to these nonconformities.
Yeah, so Stan, I mean, just for everybody's kind of edification along the way here, we would have had historically different setback rules. Those have evolved over time, right?
Correct. Those have
Yes.
evolved over time. So we find a lot in these older neighborhoods where houses are maybe built a foot or 2 away from the property line and the setback's 5 feet now. So over time, as those setback rules have changed, conforming structures have
Yeah.
become non-conforming structures. And
Oh, I just mean the lot lines.
It's
What's-
possible,
It looks like it's a double lot.
Yeah, it's possible the
Okay,
120 used to be
So that was
260s.
probably a double lot at one point?
Yeah.
We find plats from the 1800s and 1900s, a little early 1900s, maybe not the 90s, but early 1900s, very unique sometimes
Yeah.
with how they were platted.
Yeah, I mean, this one feels like a no-brainer, but it's just interesting when these come up. Thank you.
There's probably situations like this,
Oh, I'm sure.
all over the town. And those setbacks, I know, just in my house, for instance, my house is non-conforming. It's 18.
Really?
Mayoral
Yeah, time
privilege,
is over.
mayoral privilege, Chris.
Mayoral privileges, I've been reading about. Mayoral deference.
That's right, mayoral deference, exactly. But that, between the two, between strange lot
This is zoning with one.
separations and zoning changes and setback
Yeah.
changes over time.
Yeah.
Okay, anyone else?
Okay, I will just go ahead and move on to the next item, which is an alley vacation request for the properties at 5310 Lyman and 5317 Washington. This area is located just southeast of downtown. If we zoom in a little further, we can see it's just south of Randall Street. 5317 Washington is shown in purple, and 5310 Lyman is in yellow. When these properties were platted, they were platted with the properties to the north, and there's a 16-foot wide alley that is extending between the two properties, shown here in pink. If you notice to the north of these two properties, which would be up on the screen, there's an installed alley that provides access to the garages. We'll go back into the plats. This section of town and this particular lot was platted in 1889 and provided the public alley. Properties to the south were platted in 1950, and the alley did not continue south. So these are the last two properties in this previously platted 1899 subdivision. Talking about a little bit of a history and going back a little bit of ways here. So if the alley vacation were approved, here both 5317 and 5310 Lyman would take half the vacated alleyway, 5317 with the west and 5310 with the east. If the alley were to be vacated, an easement would be placed over the property, which would limit the property owners to either a fence or driveway is the most that they could put on that property there as well. And then the easement would allow utilities to go in there as well. And there are existing utilities that are in there currently. The comprehensive plan does note that we should ensure quality housing stock and modernize existing housing stock. So those how it meets the comprehensive plan. And then the Planning and Zoning Commission considered this petition as well at their August 4th meeting and recommended approval. I'm happy to answer any questions for you tonight, Mayor. Petitioners are here as well tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Stan. Anyone from the audience with a comment or question on this item? Okay, council comments or questions? Mike?
Just curious, so right now that is public property. I'm wondering who's been maintaining it, mowing the lawn, trimming the trees, that sort of thing.
Typically, it's the property owners that are adjacent to it.
So, I mean, and they've been doing that for how many years? And it just makes a lot of sense to me. The easement will continue, so there's still nothing can be built there. It's so there's still easement rights across the property. It's just no longer going to be owned by the village, no longer our responsibility. And I think just formalizing what a practicality already exists, with the exception of the fact that I know that there's been the properties just to the south have been walking across that easement, I guess, to go to the north.
Yeah, that was my question. Is that still permissible? Will that be still permissible as a public easement because they've been using it for time and repeated? No? So then there's a possibility that piece of land could be enclosed?
Yes, they can be fenced.
Right.
Good clarification. Anyone else? Mark?
Right.
Well, I was just going to also add that, this is the last one that's getting done. So the properties to the south, perhaps also at one time had an alley going through as well, or no, or the right of way.
No, that was platted in 1950s to the south, and there was no alley platted.
Got it. So this was where the alley was supposed to end, and just never got extended all the way down. Got it. And we have no interest in extending the alley. Have no plans to do that.
That's correct.
So anyhow.
Would that be an option to extend the alley, and why isn't it? Or if not, why isn't it?
That would require the property owners to the south to dedicate a public alley. That is almost always done as part of a subdivision, so it would be significantly challenging to ask people if they would be interested in dedicating their privately owned back to the village for a public road purpose.
And we definitely have not established that this has met the requirements of public use over time and usage, right? So there's no way to label it as such.
So that, it would be up to the council, one of the decision-making factors found in the right-of-way vacation policy.
Okay.
Chris, do you have something?
Yeah, I just want to be clear, we have some dollar values in the report. When we vacate, are they buying the land from us at these dollar values?
Yes, if the council so decides pursuant to the policy,
We would be
yes.
selling. Okay. Unless someone can give me a reason.
Yeah.
It seems, I agree with Mike.
Yeah, I agree with Mike too, and it's, in reading the report, we've only had 2 neighbors extend an interest in the public use here. That doesn't sound like public use to me.
Right.
So, I mean, I think this makes total sense, and it fits the code that we're looking at here.
Well, and to be clear, those neighbors just to the south still have a way to go north. They just have to do it on the street like everybody
driveway
else
Decides
does.
to do.
So we're not cutting anybody off.
Right, there's a sidewalk there.
Yeah, now this is a classic example of meeting with our right-of-way and vacation policy, which has served us very well for a long time.
Yeah.
This was a little bit more haphazard back in the day. This has sort of brought order and focus on the different factors such as need and future and use and compensation, and I think it's worked pretty well. This one seems to be a classic example of there's no reason why we would keep it. I agree that 2 people who might use it occasionally have ready access to where they need to go from alternative existing infrastructure, and it seems to check all the boxes for our policy.
Will the affected adjacent landowners suffer any detriment to their property by the vacation?
No, there's still utilities that are running back through that area that continue southbound that way. And then I don't believe there would be any detriment to them because, as council members have noted, they have other access points.
Anyone else? Thanks, Dan.
Thank you.
The final 2 items on tonight's first reading agenda are implementation of informal direction provided by the council during the financial portions of long-range planning earlier this summer. Part of the long-range financial aspects of the long-range plan, we noted some concerns about sustainability and some of our revenue sources, and the council directed us to consider increasing the home rule sales tax and the hotel tax as part of our financial planning. That's what you see here tonight. The first ordinance would increase the home rule sales tax from 1% to 1.5%, effective January 1st of 2026. And the last item would increase the hotel use tax rate from its existing 4.5% to 5.5%. We would have a similar effective date there. Just as a reminder, we have to file with the state prior to October 1st to be able to collect the home rule sales tax beginning in January. This should sound very familiar to the council, as it's directed just a couple of weeks ago. We're happy to answer any questions the council may have.
Are there any questions from the audience on these 2 items? Please come down to the microphone. We do that because there's folks watching at home that probably want to hear the same question you've got.
All right. No, I need the exercise. No, where are the, okay, I know the Red Roof Inn was turned into subsidized housing. So where are the hotels in Downers Grove that generate money?
We can put a list in this for our next meeting. I don't want to try and guess
I
right now.
mean, I'm just curious.
Yeah, there's 8.
Are there
of them.
some?
Yeah, there's about 8.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, God, then I have to invite my
I wish we had more.
relatives. There's space for all my relatives, okay. All right. We
don't have
never
to
have
send you the list.
anybody,
We
we
can
never
keep the
have
list.
anybody over.
Every time we get a question, it helps somebody understand a little better. We'll,
Like
put a
someone might
list
have a
in there.
marketing problem.
Yeah.
Point taken.
Any other audience comments or questions? Council comments, questions? Chris?
We're discussing both the hotel and the sales. Okay.
Yes.
So just with the hotel, I think, despite our friend here not knowing that we have that many, recently at the EDC meeting, we learned that our hotels are actually doing quite well. We're seeing
Good news.
some increase in DuPage, but specifically in Downers Grove. So I think this was a wise decision.
Mike?
I'd just say that this is first reading, but we've already had extensive conversation about this, so if you're wondering why I'm not saying anything now.
Yep, I think we have hammered this one
Oh, yeah.
down and, yep.
Okay.
That ends our first reading tonight, Mayor.
Thank you, Dave. Attorney's report.
Thank you, Mayor. 4 items to present tonight. The first is an ordinance vacating a portion of an unimproved public right-of-way adjacent to and between 5317 Washington Street and 5310 Lyman Avenue. An ordinance granting a lot reconfiguration with a variation for the properties located at 4909 and 4915 Pershing Avenue. An ordinance amending the Home Rule Municipal Service Occupation Tax and the Home Rule Municipal Retailers Occupation Tax. And an ordinance amending the hotel use tax. All 4 of these items will be on next week's active agenda. Thank you, Mayor. That is all.
Thank you, Enzo. Item 12 is our manager's report. This is set up for a couple of sort of ongoing conversations with the council. We have governance meetings that we've been having. We will continue to talk in governance about boards and commissions tonight. We also, if you have been watching this council in action for 20 years now, we also will be developing a work plan for the next couple of years. Those are going to happen at a little round table kind of in the back. So we're going to take a brief pause here. We're going to get ourselves set up in the back, take a little bit of a break. Anybody that wants to stay is more than welcome to do so, but give us 5 or 10 minutes to get set up in the back of the room. We have 2 subjects for tonight. We're continuing our governance discussion, talking about boards and commissions. Then we're going to talk about high priority action items, that work plan that I alluded to earlier. In the governance conversation of boards and commissions, what we are doing here tonight is talking about how we interact with our boards and commissions and what we expect of them. And so that runs the full gamut from how we assign work or don't, and how we appoint or don't, and how we read reports and our involvements with them. There is an outline that I think everybody has and should have had a chance to go through. So similarly to how we talked the last time about meetings, we're just going to kind of walk through this thing. It begins really on page 2, 11. And we want to hear people talk about what they read. This is kind of an outline of how we currently do things. And if there's things that are uncomfortable or people wish were different or good ideas to add, I think last time we heard some things about adding in terms of particularly notice and communication. So, all right, so the first thing that we start with on page 2 has to do with operating efficiency. We have traditionally kind of prioritized efficiency in many ways. And so what do folks feel about that? And there's a comment there we can make as well. There's a list of the 2024 meetings of these boards and commissions. As is noted there, board and commissions are rarely asked to generate their own agenda. And that's what drives right now the meeting frequency that you see, as well as it's been part of the theory behind efficiency. So open up the floor to commentary about that.
I'm sorry, Mayor, I misunderstood what you said, that the boards are encouraged to.
In that second paragraph under opposite, boards are rarely asked to generate their own agenda.
Rarely asked.
Yeah, and that right now is kind of a fundamental structural component, and is part of why you see these varying frequencies of meetings over the course of 2024.
That is one area that I would like to discuss. I do feel like we are missing an opportunity to engage people more and use them, if we're only getting 4 or 5 meetings out of folks. Obviously, I know that the meetings still take staff time, and I do want to be sensitive to that. But I think we could be missing opportunities to hear from residents. You know, we always hear about how either I didn't know things were going on, or, you know, I wish XYZ was happening, or I think we could be doing this differently. And I think this is really our opportunity to get people involved. And so I wonder if there is a way to, you know, almost have a planning process, you know, like 1 meeting a year to where, you know, they come up with maybe an idea or 2 if they want to, right? Like if, you know, to generate, maybe there's something of interest that particular group has been hearing from the community that they might want to bring forward to the council. It's something that would be of interest to me.
I love that idea. My only question is, would it be a hard culture to infiltrate if members either on these current boards and commissions or people in the future know that that's the norm?
Well, it could be, and so it might take some time to change that culture, but I feel like it's worth a
Someone thinks,
shot.
oh, wow, my board only met 2 times.
Yeah,
Woo-hoo!
right.
I want to sign up for that one. So, you know, if we kind of change the rules, then we lose interest, but maybe we'll gain more interest.
Right.
I've heard more often.
Yeah, we've heard more often than not that they wish they met more.
Good.
Most of the, I can't speak for all of them, I guess, but our boards and commission members generally have put their name in this hat because they like to do some stuff.
Yeah.
And so they're not, I'd be very surprised if that was the outcome.
Yeah, I've heard from a few folks that they wished that there was a more consistent meeting.
Great question, though, right? Because what you sign up for, if you came in with the anticipation that you were only meeting rather
Yeah.
infrequently, that's how it got sold to you.
Yeah.
Right.
Well,
But
for
it's good to
example.
hear that's not the.
No, yeah, for example, I know somebody who's on the stormwater floodplain oversight, and even they said they, you know, wish they
Enjoyed
had.
the meeting.
Yeah,
meeting.
genuinely, like they wish
Yeah, the
they
subjects.
wish they had things to discuss, and because they really did want to, you know, get involved more in the community.
So I'll chime in here. I mean, I agree in concept, right? But so fundamentally, 2 things. One, if our boards and commissions aren't meeting as regularly as they could be, I look to us as the reason why that's not happening. Number 1, right? I mean, we have it within our power right now to give these boards and commissions tasks, right? And to me, so secondly, the most logical task would be, and this kind of maybe comes with your idea session meeting, right? That as perhaps as we get close to the end of our current LRP schedule, right? So maybe leading into the next council's LRP. Prior to that, we task the boards and commissions to explore different things that they can help dig into, bring forward for future council consideration in an LRP. I kind of think that would have been helpful right now for us, right? So, so I pretty much think that it should, in terms of process, should remain something where we are pretty much directing what they're spending their time on, right? Except that we need to do that. And it really is I think an opportunity. We have a large number of people that have volunteered their time and said, hey, I'm willing to give. I'm interested, I'm motivated, and so I'd like to share my views and my expertise, and so we go through a lot of effort to try to find people, you know, to help guide us. And here we have this ready set group of people that's already said, hey, me. So I think it's incumbent upon us to make sure that we're utilizing them.
I do wonder with that note, during our priority action items, if that is a good opportunity for us to identify some places where we might be able to use boards and commissions kind of off the bat.
Just to pick up on what you were saying, and this is a reoccurring conversation. Every council's had
Oh,
this
yeah.
conversation. We are blessed with more boards and commissions than I think any other community I can think of, except for ones that are significantly larger than us.
Okay.
That's a good thing. Has been pointed out, we have a rich, robust group of dedicated citizens and free expertise at our disposal. Yes, we should tap into that more often, but there are a couple things that I would just throw out as considerations, and you started to hit upon it. It's about meeting expectations and it's about managing expectations. Because there are times when certainly we have something that we want to say, you know what, that would be a good thing for the Human Services Commission to look deeper into, take some public comment, go kick the tires so Chris doesn't have to do so much research all the time.
I want my own board.
More than one.
Board of one. You beat me to it.
But I think it's important, and again, this is just from scars and bruises of experience, that you have to be very, to Mike's point, what are you asking them to do and what is the
And set
deliverable and
parameters.
time frame and all that, so that you actually get the
Yes.
benefit of it. That also has to be done in close collaboration with staff, because sometimes we might think, oh, that'd be a great idea to flip to a board and commission, and there might be a hand go up in the back, oh, hold on a minute. Let me propose a different idea. But if we all collectively decide that there's something that we want to task a board and commission with, allow them to have more public input, think about it a little bit deeper than perhaps we can with the 90 other things going on, absolutely. But to Mike's point, history will say it's very important to give that sort of, what are the expectations and that guidance. Likewise, our boards and commissions serve as tremendous, who used the word antennae? Maybe I did. I used the word antennae. They are tremendous antennae to the community, and they let's not fool ourselves. They communicate with staff, and they're staff liaisons all the time. So there's something that comes up in a parking and traffic commission. I wouldn't say it doesn't end up in our to us anyway. We just may not be as aware of it as a report coming from a board or commission. But when a board or commission is asked, and I think it's a great idea, okay, you say they met 12 times a year. You met 12 times a year, you heard the people who were coming to your meetings, you have more lower level involvement with some of these issues. What are people thinking of speed bumps these days? Whatever it might be. Come back with us with something. Again, that's sort of a task, but if the task is come up with an idea, then we need to manage expectations, because what we don't want to have happen is for people to spend their time, their family time, and their expertise volunteering, and they put forth some idea, and then we're all, well, that's nice. We'll get to that in 2036. There's a level of frustration that comes out of that. So it's about managing those expectations. Like, yes, it was a great idea, but it's not going to get enacted into law next week after you give us a report, because there's a million other things going on, and we're about to talk about long-range action items here. I'm guessing we're going to have a pretty weighty list if I know this group. I don't want to suggest that we have 11 boards that are coming with ideas that we know we can't get to any of them, because we've already packed the room. But with all those caveats, 100%. We should definitely use our boards, which we'll go back to something I'm going to jump ahead on. Liaisons, and then periodically meeting with our boards and commissions.
Yes, that
So
will
that
help.
they have a first, what do you expect of us? What do we expect of you? And that fosters a much better relationship than, I've never seen this council. I got appointed. That's the last time I ever heard from anybody. That also breeds some dissatisfaction, which I think we can avoid.
There's some reality about resources. We've all danced around it a little bit with high priority actions, but even prepping a subject for a board commission is a burden. So I want to go back to what you were saying, Leslie, about this planning process. What if we had an environment where boards and commissions were expected to meet, once a year at minimum in May, right? Something in advance of our entering this process. Specifically to brainstorm and come up with whether they had something they wanted to throw into the hopper for this kind of a list. It allows us then a little bit of time to process. Some things are just like our own list that we all come up with. Some of them are high priority action items, some of them are not.
Yeah.
But they need that sort of evaluation before people start nodding too
Yeah.
much on it.
Right, yeah, and based on, the experience that they're kind of at the ground level of, dealing with the issues. So yeah, I think that's smart.
And putting some structure would also help with planning and staff, and it would be a more efficient process.
And it would
overall,
set
too.
reasonable expectations because we know not all of our stuff ends up, at the end of it as well, so.
Go ahead.
Yeah, so I agree with a lot of what is being said. I think there's a couple things I want to raise. First, we have an environmental sustainability plan, an active transportation plan, and a comprehensive plan that is chock full of initiatives. I think we've seen a lot of those even listed in some of the next discussion. So stuff to do doesn't really feel like too much of a hurdle for me with these boards. And I agree with you, Mike. I don't think we are quite leveraging them a lot, recognizing bandwidth and resource and all that. So, but I also agree, and I had gone back and watched some of the other boards and commissions discussions from years past. And one of the things I did pull from Commissioner Tully was this idea of antenna. And I just think that's right. And I don't think it's, maybe the antenna isn't on all the time, but maybe there is much in the way that we have the EDC and the downtown management group. Maybe there's an annual or a biannual, I'll say annual to start, let's walk before we run, where maybe this is where you were headed, Mayor, with this idea of coming in May and maybe just giving us some ideas about what their domain, what are the issues, the challenges, the opportunities that we might see. So I would say the technology committee, which met exactly 0 times last year. Okay, maybe not a great example. But I could see a tech.
That might be a good example. It's a very good example.
The technology
Yeah.
committee could come before us, and with the expertise on that board and the residents, to try to just raise what are a few of the things that we should be thinking about from a technology standpoint. I mean, AI, which I'll talk a little bit about in a minute, is something we can't ignore. And I appreciate the fact, I don't think we can all be researching all of these things all the time. I don't want to put that on staff. But a scheduled annual come before the council, have them meeting where they have their, and talking to us about what the issues are. I absolutely agree that things like charters should be updated. I think we should be creating an actual manual for members of the board so they understand what's expected of them, what's their charter, how it aligns with what we do, with what they do. I've seen examples of this in other communities, and I think it is extremely helpful. Having been on a board which actually had some stuff happen here at the council, including getting a social worker put on, directed by the council. I joined right at the time when we were working on it. So to me, it was like, oh, these boards and commissions, we get to have all this impact. It turns out it might have been more of the exception than the rule when it comes to this. But I am all for a more active board. I agree with the sentiment. I don't remember who said it. Might have been Commissioner Jose, one of the different meetings. We don't need 15 sub-councils, right? We're not looking to create that. But I do think it's important that we do tap into them. And maybe that is on us to push that a little bit more. But I think requiring some kind of regular reporting, as I said, an updated charter. I think we're due for a review of our boards to just make sure that they're all still valid boards that we use. I mean, I don't know what the Community Events Commission meets about. Maybe someone can tell me, but my understanding is the village doesn't really do, I don't know. Is there, maybe, yeah, you can tell me. No offense to those on the Community Events Commission, I'm sure you're doing a great job. And these are just maybe an evaluation of what we need and if there's anything we're missing. I want to highlight the Technology Commission. I think that's a vital one. It should be far more engaged from us. But maybe just having an understanding that. I do think we should be talking a little bit about things like tenure and qualifications, but maybe we'll get to that when we talk about the appointment process. But in terms of how these boards are being leveraged, I think I agree with what most of you are saying. It's a balance between engaging, not overwhelming us.
Expectations.
Not
But I think-
overpowering.
Yeah.
Empowering, but I think that comes from some just clear expectations, documentation on
And good
what we
communication.
should look, what
Yeah.
they should look like, yeah.
Yep.
Exactly.
Overwhelming us is the biggest, I
Yeah.
think, risk, honestly, Chris, because these,
And staff, yeah.
there's, pick a board, they could, these people all said, I wanna serve, and I've got ideas, and just like us, if we just started throwing it on the table, we'd have 150 high priority action items. So it's managing that process of getting from a planning meeting of some kind to a point where we're actually allocating the resources necessary to do whatever it is it's come up with. Take the ECC and the fact we've got environmental sustainability plan. So on the one hand, there's a book, right? Just start through the book. Well, we'll start through the book meeting. Because there isn't any budget authority, there isn't any staff direction authority, there isn't any contracting authority, there isn't any RFP authority. So it's getting, I think it's an expectation thing that we'd have to be thoughtful about. I think there's a ton of opportunity to do more.
Yeah.
Get more input from them and engage them more, but we're gonna have to be pretty careful about how we manage those expectations.
Maybe it is priority action item driven, I mean, if, I think,
Smart
yeah,
place to
pie in
start.
the sky would be, let's find something for all of them to do. I think
Yeah.
to your point, we can't, it's just too much, maybe it is looking at what our priority action items are and maybe actively thinking about maybe more ways they can be involved.
Yes.
I mean, they were super helpful in the comprehensive planning, the
They were.
environmental sustainability plan, the active transportation plan. Mike, I think you and I had a conversation about how do we continue that engagement,
Right.
and maybe that's one way we do it.
Systemically asking them
Yes.
input ahead of our efforts, I think is a really logical next step. You call it a planning process, I think, pre-planning or something that.
Logical way to start.
In the end, as well, it could save us some time. I mean, we're looking at it as the potential to create more time, but the reality is that if others are spending their time and working through some things, especially with our residents as well, I think all of this could lead to more success at the council level when we are considering changes and improvements, what have you. And certainly maybe more public engagement and awareness as well.
Engagement and awareness for sure. I'm pretty skeptical of the time save. When you think back to our consultants, we paid a lot of money to some really qualified professionals whose only job, or at least a big portion of their time allocation, was us. And every one of those required our staff to get it in a condition that we could actually deal with it.
Yeah, but agreed, but that was some pretty heavy lifting. And we were dealing with comprehensive plans and what's possible across, I think there was some pretty heavy lifting there. Not to say the point isn't valid, but I see these things as maybe a little more bite-sized.
Yeah.
Well, the mere fact that these boards and commissions exist, it is demonstrating that they actually do save us time. They are taking on work. There's no way we could do all this work, the seven of us, right? So we necessarily have to divide and conquer. So that was my only thought, Mayor, is just that there's, if we're thoughtful about this, there's probably ways we could help.
It dovetails into the next conversation, which I think is a little bit where Chris was headed. And it's kind of impossible to separate from the process of selection. Because if you want the boards and commissions to do work, and I don't know how we define that, I assume that means hand counsel something ready for action. If you want them to do work, then you've got to staff them one way, right? If you want them to be, what did Greg say, 10 mini boards or something.
Yes.
If you wanted to be 10 mini councils, then
Yeah.
that's another thing. If you want them to be your community antenna, then that's another thing. So these all figure into how we want to use them, I think, is the precursor to deciding how we staff them.
Yes, and then it's not to be overlooked that 8 of the boards are statutory nature, so they have a charter of sorts to begin with already.
Right,
And there's certain work they have to do,
yes,
whether we delegate it to them or not.
correct.
So there's some that there's a lot more green field to work with because they're not statutorily required. But those that are, particularly the ones that are petition driven, tend to reflect what's coming before them, but that doesn't mean, particularly parking and traffic, planning
Yes,
commission, go on and on, where they definitely serve that role as antennae of the community and what's going on, sometimes in ways that we don't see.
I mean, I think that's a great point. I think that maybe our focus is not on the statutory ones, but on the ones where we
We might have to provide more charter for the ones that aren't
Yes.
statutory. With the ones that are statutory, I would still wanna hear what's on your mind, what are you guys seeing, that kind of a thing, but
Okay.
I think the ones that
I
are
mean,
non-statutory.
some of them, not all of them.
Not all of them,
Okay.
right. Liquor commission,
yeah,
stormwater, floodplain,
Foreign fire insurance tax board.
yeah, we
probably
probably
don't
don't
need
need,
that one.
yeah.
Point saying,
Corporate,
we could-
environmental concerns, yes.
we could,
Yeah.
we're not talking about all the boards, we're talking about the ones that are a little more, we have a little more control over their charters and stuff.
Correct.
You know, I'm just, I'm gonna have to say anything, building board of appeals, so I've served on that. I think I'm not even sure how many years because I said, sure, yeah, and course of time that I did it, there was a meeting. And actually, it's actually a good sign. Because
Yes, it
it
is.
means, because it means that, in essence, people are, for the most part, complying with codes, and there's a logical sort of conclusion to any disagreement that might come up about whether or not I gotta comply with this or that. There's an understanding. But still, you've got some people there that, that could be resourced. I'm not sure how, but just, and this is probably, the fact that that they haven't met at all is necessarily a bad sign of that one. And then we just combined the plan commission and zoning board of appeals, and that's highlighted in the asterisk at the bottom. So, I've been over this list before. I'm not sure if there's other opportunities like that to combine. I know I'm maybe going off the conversation, but I don't think so. I thought that was just a great move that we made.
So based on what Mike said about it's a good thing the Building Board of Appeals didn't meet, and noting that some commissions are statutory, maybe it does make sense that the work and the focus on the committee should be driven by priority action items instead of people doing work that doesn't need to be done at a particular time. And so aligning boards and commissions with the items does seem to make sense. Just kind of thinking out loud.
Well, I think, yeah, I agree, but I also think that's why Leslie's thoughts about trying to have a planning thing up front, because what's missing right now is, we're about to talk about this list, right? And what's missing is any input from our boards and commissions. That seems like a big glaring gap in our planning process right now. So I think you're right, but I think probably there's still something we could do to make it a little better, make it get a little more input that we don't have right now. I mean, I've said this, I think, at the last time we were talking about meeting frequency, you sort of have to jettison the last 18 months, right? Because that was a little unique. Guiding DG thing is pretty unique. It's every 6, 8, 10 year kind of a thing. So there were some boards and commissions that met during that process that did a lot of help, did a lot of good for us. But if you look at their, say, previous 5 years, they didn't meet very frequently. Really, I think we're talking about, just for notes here, I think we're talking about ACC, liquor, community events, transportation, parking, HPDRB, stormwater, human services, and technology, right?
Yeah.
The balance of those are statutory in nature, I think.
That is correct, because it's on page 4.
So it's 15, okay, and minus those.
Yeah.
Well, all right, let's get, so in order to keep moving through here, we're gonna talk about this operating officially. I'm not hearing anybody suggesting that we shouldn't try and come up with a way to systemically create opportunities to get better and more frequent input from our boards and commissions, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
So that would be one of the things that we would wanna leave here with some suggestions for staff to work on, ideas. We're not gonna pin it down, but
And that's gonna vary by board,
Yes.
by nature. They're not all gonna be, they can't all be the same. Some are petition driven, some are not, some are statutory, some are not. But to try to do that in different ways that make sense for each of the boards.
yeah, even the ones that are petition driven though, like it would, I can't see how it would hurt us for
agree.
planning and zoning to intentionally meet absent a petition to inform this process.
Do not disagree. I'm just saying we might have to tweak things a little bit depending on the nature of the board.
What are you thinking?
Thinking I lost my thought.
I mean, would it be something easier to put something in the books every year, 1 week, the boards meet, and that's something that everyone can plan around and utilize as, all right, these are the intent of this once a year, we're counting on this time to actually gather the boards and give us their feedback on what they're hearing and seeing, but only once a year.
But I would maybe also suggest that the idea of figuring out how to systematically leverage our boards more feels like it rises to a priority action item. Because I think it's gonna require not only on sort of getting the lay of the land of where we are now, which we have some of that in this document. But I also think it's gonna require maybe looking at how other villages and towns are doing this. What are other ways that they've been effective? And I don't think that's a super easy task to
No.
do. I mean, candidly, I've done some of the research to kind of understand, and the most I can find was sort of around this charter and documentation and things like that. But in terms of like measuring pure output KPIs and how they actually help, I think is gonna be maybe a deeper dive. So I love, obviously, I'm supportive of this idea of some of the things we talked about, but I wouldn't want to go patchwork at it, or I wouldn't want to go like, hey, we should have them present to us, and it's like, oh, okay, we got to figure out what that looks like for 15 boards, and maybe there's a way that we can, maybe that I think it rises to the level of reaction, which I would support, because
Yeah,
I think
it's definitely gonna take more work and
Yeah.
thought, for sure.
Yeah.
It's gonna be reminded of a time when it was right after typical cyclical reappointments and appointments. That is part of orientation. There was a half-day meeting on a Saturday where the village council and staff met with all the boards and commissions. I think, what was it, Midwestern University where it was?
Yeah.
And I mean, that's an undertaking.
Yeah.
It's super important for advancing the things we're talking about right now, but it's an undertaking, so I'm agreeing with you that it's not a do in your spare time thing.
And I think the timing is also good now, because I think we did just tax a few boards with a lot of work. I think we became a board for a while there, and I think now that work has, well, I wouldn't say settled, but it's less of that type of work. This might be a good time. There's probably some learnings from that experience we could gather. So I think, yeah, I made my point, but I think it's important to look at this as if we're really gonna change the way we're leveraging these, it's gonna take that commitment toward that time.
We need that collaborative process with council and staff.
Yeah.
Boards to do it right, because we're gonna do it right.
Agreed.
All right, let's keep moving through this. Starting on page 3, I assume we don't want to necessarily lose that first item, right? Always gonna be it.
Right.
Same thing with the second one. How about the third? That probably weaves itself into some of this conversation.
Yeah, I'll start on this one. I think, Mayor, you and I have had a couple conversations in the past about how you select members for boards and commissions. And which is obviously fine. I think from my perspective, it seems to have been more about this cross section of the community. I appreciate that. I feel like there should be, or could be, a little more, can I say deference now? Can I still say deference?
You say it as long as it's to me, all you want.
Yeah, I would say maybe some thinking about putting people with professional experience on some of these boards. I think I know that's not maybe always easy based on what we get in terms of applicants, but isn't really a board that as I looked at them, that I don't think would benefit from having a couple folks that are technology experts or human services and social worker experts and transportation people. I respect the idea of trying to include the village, so it's not that I think that isn't a good way to do it. I think a better way would be to have some representation that can help even just bring some expertise. I think the risk there is that you get a couple people that might sort of overtake the board and become the smartest people in the room, but I think the value maybe outweighs that. And I would be curious what the rest of
Yeah, I agree. I would not want to fill the board with, expertise. But I think there's value in having maybe 1 or 2 members, right? That should be part of what we look at, not all of what we look at. But we should always kind of try and keep an eye to maybe having 1 or 2 members on each board who have expertise in that, so that they can, when somebody may have an idea or have a reaction to something, they can kind of provide a little bit of expertise, so they can say, well, have you thought of this piece, right? And then that is another way that we can kind of help engage better, right, with the larger the greater community and residents as to why there may be one decision that's made over another. It, again, just helps even more with that engagement and people understanding how decisions are made too.
Most of the boards are 7, just for some perspective.
Correct, that's why like 1 maybe.
Most of them have, so that's one of my criteria.
Yeah.
All of the boards have at least one person who is somehow in their either education or profession connected to those types of activities.
And it seems like at least,
Has been one, And then from that point, it's been an antenna for the community, right? Because not every engineer is a great antenna.
Yeah.
And then there's been some geography, and there's been some demographics, there's been some also time and duration in the community.
Right.
Try to not have
which is a good
boards that are all 1 year or all 30-year folks. But there is on each of those boards somebody who's got something about their, at least what we have available to us in paper, that makes them reasonably applicable to that board.
Yeah, I support your idea, Chris, 100%, because while I do also appreciate other people being involved and having them feel like they have a place, I sure wouldn't want 7 Tammys on the technology committee. So I really think there is a big difference at times between ideas and opinions and real expert knowledge in science. I mean, it matters, science matters, so.
I mean, I can tell you just my experience on the Human Services Commission. We had a licensed therapist on there, and it made a difference. I mean, just being able to give us color and background, and
humanizing it.
They were plugged into that community.
So,
and it made a big difference.
Am I hearing then that, because we have boards and commissions that have that requirement
Not many.
already.
No,
Only a couple.
No, only one.
It's really only the HPDRB, I think.
Yeah.
That was the one. that
Have
I
you
was-
Planning and zoning.
Have you heard of it?
Yeah, yeah, it's,
Better bet that.
And planning and
So,
zoning.
but, so,
Yeah.
Maybe the building.
Yeah, it says planning and zoning.
I don't think so.
I think, yeah.
But what I'm hearing though is if maybe then, looking at, the HPDRC. Did I get it?
B. B.
You're so close.
So close.
It was ADRB for me forever, so. Looking at that sort of model, I think would work pretty well for all the boards and commissions. Where we had, I think we had a requirement for two architects on that.
So the only challenge with that is, if you look at each of these boards, like stormwater's got a stormwater engineer on it, parking and traffic has somebody, I think, that was at least a civil. There are, each of these things have some of that going on right now. The challenge with that has been that you don't necessarily have
Availability?
two architects. I mean, we do right now, right? That's great. I think there was a requirement for a lawyer maybe on that as well.
Yeah, there is, and a realtor and.
Yeah, there were a variety of, so you can do that, you just have to realize that you're gonna vary quite a bit.
But I think this project, if we go forward with it, part of that is recruitment strategies and how we connect with those types of folks in a way that's, will generate those kind of.
I did some recruiting, so.
Yeah, the reason I like to is for lots of reasons, not least of which, sometimes one is absent. Sometimes one can't be believed. And I don't know, just that feels better.
I don't think that would be a problem, as I'm just reflecting on the pool, over the years. If you said that you wanted two
You don't
on every
think-
board that was
Yeah.
you'd have to frame that correctly.
Yeah.
It'd have to be, I'm gonna use parking and traffic, so maybe they're engineer, maybe they're civil engineer, maybe they're, right, there's some stuff there. Maybe they're urban planner, there could be a variety of things. As long as you gave yourself a little more, HPDRB is a little tight.
Yeah.
So I think you'd have to give yourself a little more space than that, but I don't
I
think.
think you could with most of these.
Yeah, I think you could too.
There's a lot of
Experience
professions that
in
you
these
could
things.
include in human service.
That's
There's a
right.
lot of
Related-
expertise that you could include in
Correct.
environmental
Oh, yeah.
concerns. There's a lot.
Yes.
Yeah.
You can open up the pool
Yes.
based on, I see.
Yeah. That's kind of what we're
Yeah,
saying. It
yeah.
doesn't have to be a specific
Yeah,
profession.
that's
There's a
right.
lot, there's a
Correct.
lot of professions that would fall
Yeah.
under those.
Marketer.
Have we? Oh, there.
No,
Too many of those already.
that's fair.
How much have we asked our boards and committees to those members to make recommendations for future board and commission members to help fill vacancies, that sort of thing? Because I know that's what I tried to do some of that when I was on the board.
I would look at the staff and look at Martin. I'm not aware that I've ever been involved in that process.
I haven't.
Sure. So, I mean, maybe that ought to be something we look at, if to increase the likelihood that we get people that, because the folks that are serving right now would be pretty good barometers of who they know that might.
We've done that in the past when you don't have
The architect, yeah.
choose from. Okay, well, let's go out and do you know somebody? And you're right, the best place to ask is people who are already in that space. Because they're also serve as the best ambassadors for convincing somebody to do it.
And so let's, maybe we should be making that an expectation of that service, that you're coming on and we're
The charter.
Yes, right. The other thing is and again, I feel like maybe we're getting just some of the detail here, but, because maybe in my head I'm thinking, okay, this is gonna be a project that the details are all gonna get sorted out. However, if maybe a way of keeping the community represented, the cross-section more, is to rotate those non-professionals out sooner. You understand what I'm saying?
Yes.
Like where you're taking, if part of the idea is to make sure we have a cross-section of the community, maybe that those folks are ones that maybe don't have as long a term, or maybe only serve one term as opposed to the professionals who might serve more than one. I don't know, just an idea.
One thing about that is to be careful of is, I think a couple things come to mind. One is people they've asked to serve, so you're trying to give them a chance, and there is a learning curve. There is a learning curve to this stuff.
Yeah.
So if a board meets probably not gonna meet 12 times,
Yeah,
no matter what we do,
That's
right?
fair.
So if they meet 6 times, that person misses one, and all of a sudden they're not catching that much out of the gate. You know, as again, just for everybody's sort of edification, informally and not consistently, but I'm trying to move people on to either other boards or out after about 3 terms.
3 terms.
There's no magic behind that, could be any other number. But there are multiple instances of moving folks on to try and give hope for others. As part of the normal process.
I don't want to put too much value on recruitment and bringing in like-minded individuals, because I also like the idea of having non-like-minded individuals collaborating and getting different perspectives on these things.
But if you have a board and commission that's filled with people, you know, maybe there's a couple there that have relevant background, but the rest are residents with an interest.
Good cross-section.
I think I don't think there's gonna be much danger in that.
No.
I also don't think we have any problem coming up with them.
What's that?
I also don't think we'll have any problem coming up with them.
I also might suggest that we develop code of conduct for our members of our boards. I think there's conflict of interest rules that are obvious, but maybe some public statement protocols. Yeah.
As part of orientation, and we walk through new board members through all that stuff.
We do have a
Get a
binder
manual.
that we go through with each new appointee.
Does it have
Probably
a
looking-
formalized code of conduct in it?
There's ethics and stuff like that.
No, there's the ethics, our rules and all.
I'm only asking because I was just want to know,
Yeah.
define what space was that we might build off of.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, I
I don't
think,
think it's a code of conduct that you're thinking of.
yeah,
It's ethics and OMA and campaign finance.
Yeah.
It's the
That
rules
was
of the
kind of
road.
related
It's not
stuff.
how to be a good
yeah,
driver.
I guess, and then I think tied to that is sort of attendance expectations.
Yeah,
So
that is one issue that I feel like we've had over the years, right?
I think that should definitely be part.
Because that has been the
We've
most
had
common
people
reason
who
for
have not
resignation.
yeah. So again, these are all things I think that need to go into what we're.
And that's why it should be a priority action item.
Yeah, it's just a lot. One thing on page 3 that I know we've talked about back and forth, and I never know what the right answer is council member participation. Because, right, that goes back to knowing what is going on in the meetings, and especially, you know, since we don't necessarily televise all of ours, which has been, I know, a contentious point for some residents. I think, what is it, the planning and zoning, I know some folks.
You're putting us on a tee. Go ahead and just keep
I
saying
know, so I actually kind of, I think we should actually, you know, be broadcast our meetings. I think there's value in that. But that is one way that we could potentially get a little bit more information is to attend. And I do understand that like sometimes it could be a little bit nerve-wracking, but I kind of think at this point, folks know that their recommendations are eventually going to be coming to us and
So the number one, I was waiting until we got to communication and transparency, but I am absolutely in favor of at a minimum televising plan commission meetings. I think we had to consider a
Yes,
few others.
I think we
don't think
should.
all of them lends themselves to that.
Right.
But when we're talking about increasing transparency,
I
Yeah.
agree.
and just look at the ad hoc recently, it wasn't that hard, and maybe once or twice Dave hit the wrong button, but other than make sure you're listening.
I'll make sure I'm not the staff liaison.
But I mean, it's a
But I
really
agree.
super simple way to enhance transparency. And I know that there's some question about, well, I don't know, now do I want to serve? I'm going to be on TV. I mean, personally, you're at a public meeting.
Yeah,
Deal with it. But anyway,
you
so
look at
there's
the number of views, like.
well, right. But I don't know if we would do all of them, but there's some where I think the community would be very interested. HPDRB, transportation and parking, maybe liquor, plan commission for sure.
Yeah,
And some of the others we can think about too, but I tend to think that that's a big step towards transparency. So that's my speech on that. But what I was going to say earlier is the attendance part. the commitment has to be on the member of the council members attending the meetings to behave themselves.
Yes, and I
It's
completely
not the
agree,
board and commission I'm worried about.
right?
Board
Stay
and
in the back,
commission
stay quiet.
Usually isn't, oh my goodness, Tammy Sarver's in the audience, I now have to act differently, that's not gonna happen.
Right.
But we've had some occasions, rare occasions, when let's say a council person with very strong opinions would go to a board and commission meeting and literally try to influence it.
Oh, yeah.
And that board and commission was like, well, there's a commissioner in the audience, now I gotta,
Yeah.
the commissioner says, that's the village council. And the
Sure.
rest of it is like, well, hold on a minute.
Yeah. That's
So
why.
to
they're
me, I don't
in
have
this
a problem
room.
with attendance, I think actually going
Okay.
and saying hi and nice thank you for your service, just gonna go sit in the back and I'm gonna leave.
Right, which is
That's
what we did,
perfectly
yeah,
fine.
for the
It's-
library
it's
board of
correct.
trustees when we were on the ad hoc, we sat in the
Yeah,
back,
it's-
stayed
it's-
quiet, and just
It's,
kind of
it's really incumbent upon the council members not to
agree.
either explicitly or implicitly.
Yeah.
Correct.
So
But
I
it's
wonder,
also part of orientation too, or that like once in a while, we may come by, we're not there because, oh crap, it's an important vote and Chris Gilmartin's here, I'm changing my vote. You know, that's not what we
Right.
wanna do.
it's just so that we, you
Yes.
know what's going on in the committee, yeah, so I wonder if maybe instead of participation discouraged, it's more of like an expectation of code of conduct when you participate.
Can I say here that the language is council member participation is discouraged.
Yeah,
It doesn't say council member
Attendance.
attendance is discouraged, it says participation.
That's-
And it seemed to me pretty
Well,
purposeful.
Well,
but
you're
it
not
says
supposed to do it
council member
during public.
attendance at such meetings may limit the discussion or could
We had,
influence others.
many of these rules that we've had a couple last time, I think, about council member reports, right? That in the past, they get written in reaction to something, right?
Yeah.
And so we've had situations in the past where council
I can see
members
that.
show up at a plan commission
Get
meeting
up in public comment
and they
start
get up in public
lecturing
comment and
the
start
plan commission.
laying out how it ought to be.
It's there.
Yeah.
That's why we needed video. I need to see that.
Yeah. So, I mean, I tend to think that
But there is something else here. It is also the no surprises thing. It is also that the according to this, and I think what I've been told was like, well, now Rob has gone to that meeting. He's got way more information about what's coming in front of us than the others have who haven't seen.
it's a minutes thing, right? Because we end up looking at a set of minutes and that's not necessarily the same as the context you
Sure.
get if you're watching.
I mean, I'm just.
Yeah.
I don't
Yeah,
know.
which is
I-
why it's being
That's right.
televised is helpful.
I'm not
Exactly right.
suggesting that I would discourage anyone from attending these minutes. I think it is a little overblown, this idea of influence or somebody getting up and, especially in this group, saying something that they shouldn't. I can't speak for every member of a board of whether or not our presence causes intimidation or
But that's a
maybe
conversation
just a
we
little-
could have with each board
that's a
too.
Yes.
conversation we could have. In my view, record the meetings,
Yes,
let me as a
Yes.
commissioner watch the meetings, I can read the minutes. If I'm not clear on what this felt like in the room, I can go to the YouTube video or whatever and just clarify it. I don't need to be in the meetings candidly. My schedule would be much better served if I had the ability to watch it on my own time. But I do think there's value, I agree, if we can figure a way to record. I mean, we talked about this 4 years ago. We
Is
can
there any
record-
reason that anybody would think right now that we wouldn't just put them all on YouTube?
The only thing this is not my position, but the only thing I've heard from
Yeah.
some people as a hesitation is, in this day and age, being televised, does it somehow, will it have a chilling effect on encouraging people to participate?
Yeah.
That's not my message, that's just, I've just heard that question asked. I tend to think it's already a public meeting, what's the difference? But that's the only
Correct.
thing.
I mean, the reality is, those who are interested in the meeting
You would
are
think.
gonna watch it.
Well, and if you are interested in serving, you're probably
Oh,
not gonna mind
yeah.
it being televised,
Maybe,
being broadcast.
yeah.
I have heard that.
Are we broadcast? We're not.
I hope not.
TV, are we?
All the time.
I would, so I'm in favor of the recording of it and pushing it out.
And some of them not, some of them.
Particularly the
Fire
ones,
pension
yeah,
board.
there are,
Yes, no.
there are, and look at even say planning and zoning, not every meeting is gonna be really interesting, but there are some meetings where the public has a lot of interest, and it would make sense for those.
And it would be
I don't
great
know
for-
if you can pick and choose.
No, we would do them
No,
all.
we would do them all, yeah.
But you don't, it's not like every
Yeah,
meeting
yeah,
is gonna be,
yeah.
you know, hey, oh my gosh, I'm gonna be on TV. It's really more likely to be around a certain topic that that comes
Yes,
up.
it would be
that-
valuable to the public and it would be valuable to the council.
And so there's some, you know, there can be, if they know there's something coming up that's big, there can be some discussion about how best to handle that. And, you know, but I would ask that in terms of this language, that fourth line where it says council member attendance at such meetings may limit, that be changed to participation.
Yeah.
because
Why don't
This
we
is all
just-
about
why don't we-
participation.
Why don't we consider just striking that paragraph?
Because actually, no, I wouldn't wanna do that. Because of
No, because it actually happened.
It
Yeah.
hap- yeah,
So I'm okay
it's-
changing-
No.
But it's about expectations.
I'm
I don't-
okay changing
What grade in
attendance
high
to
school was
participation.
that?
I'm fine with that.
How long ago did that happen? Long time ago.
It doesn't, yeah, history repeats itself though.
It does.
So
I'm
it's just a
okay,
matter
I'm
of
okay
time.
changing
There's an election
attendance
every
and
2
making
years,
it clear
Chris.
that it's participation,
Right,
attempting to influence
I
a
think that
vote.
that's a good, you know, this
That
makes
makes
sense, that
sense.
council members should be discouraged from participating
That is correct.
in those meetings.
That
But
does make sense.
if you wanna attend, sit in the back,
I think
fine.
that's great.
Yes, I absolutely agree.
Right,
That's just.
Yeah, we shouldn't be participating in those.
it's
yeah.
almost like a foregone
You get your
conclusion.
chance to participate up here.
Yeah,
Right.
I agree. So just changing attendance to participation, I'm fully in favor of that.
Which I think it was just a slip up in the writing of it,
And the reality is these are
honestly.
operating concepts, not
Yes,
code.
right,
So
this is an
I
operating.
agree
Yes,
with
yes,
what
yes,
you're
yes.
saying.
I think you wanna leave it too, because then the board knows, hey, we understand. If they do see one of us there, that
Right.
it's still sitting there and that, all right, they're, it's
Right,
okay, they're
they're
here,
set.
but I know they're not gonna get up here and start
Yeah.
You shouldn't be, uh,
Yeah,
participating.
hey, this shouldn't be going on.
Rob's gonna scowl at them.
It's not gonna work.
Fear the beard.
Thank you. New slogan.
The last thing on this page that we didn't really touch on, staff as subject matter experts and liaisons. Martin, you want to comment on liaisons? I bet you do.
Yes, I like liaisons.
Excuse me.
Well, and this goes back to, and it's a little bit different, because if we're gonna be televising most of the meetings that I think lend themselves to this, the liaison is less important because we can all watch the meeting. One of the reasons for the liaison, but there's two pieces of the liaison. One
To
is
be clear, you're talking about council
Yes,
liaisons.
yes, a council
liaisons
liaison.
to
One of
boards and
us,
commissions. That has gone from being non-existent to being very formal and everything in between. And sort of the temperature of the council at the time. When it worked well, this is, assume now we're not televising everything for a second. It's a nice way for a council member to, oh, I heard this at parking and traffic, bring it back to the council. Just a heads up, kind of antennae thing, but it's also an ability sometimes to communicate the other way without participating. But again, it has to be super measured. I don't know if it's as necessary from the antennae part if we're gonna be televising.
Mhm.
Yeah, you don't have to be at the meeting. I don't have to rely upon Mike to go to a meeting and tell me what happened. I just watch it. But would it be still valuable to for that board and commission know that they have a liaison? They can ask questions of,
Yeah.
again, it's incumbent upon us as commissioners not to just sort of go off in a corner and do it, but on behalf of the council, or with the knowledge and consent of the council. You know, is there a benefit to having a liaison for what I would call sort of the relationship? And if there's something going on, you know, hey, so-and-so's not coming to meeting, or whatever it might be, just something that would be a dedicated channel.
Right now, that's staff
Yeah.
serves in
Right.
that role.
So I have a question. So, yeah, when the liaisons were there, they attended all the meetings? And would this replace the staff liaison?
No,
Would not replace the staff liaison. The staff liaison participates.
mm-hmm,
Got it.
they're
On
the subject
purpose.
matter experts, yeah.
This is more just, and it was really to bring back information to the rest of the council, which for televising is
Sure.
unnecessary.
Yeah.
But the other part of it was that board and commission knew that they had somebody, so library board of trustees, if Leslie's the liaison, they know that's their go-to council person.
There were times,
EDC is Chris, you know, whatever, Mike's the acronym. It's And it's more of a, I have a connection and it just sort of
Yeah.
brings it,
I get it.
it's more of a relationship thing at that point,
There were times, as Martin said, that's gone from super formal to
non-existent.
non-existent, right?
Yeah.
But there were times in the past where liaisons actually would periodically give reports to the
Correct.
council about the board and commission they were a liaison to. Again, in the absence of a televised meeting,
Sure.
there was some value that was different there. But there was when they were functioning in that kind of a role, there was a very different relationship.
I think televising does the job for me.
Because we can note attendance that way too.
Maybe it's,
I mean, selfishly, I am a little concerned about the time I could commit to that board, if I'm being honest.
Yeah.
I wouldn't want to do it unless I was, and if it's attending, I guess if it's attending 4 meetings, that's one thing. If it's attending, if it's 0 meetings.
Versus, yeah.
Well, I think that's kind of how they disintegrated, Chris. Is that people council members just sort of stopped doing the work.
Yeah. Right. But I do understand the value, because I do think a connection to the council would probably enhance some more proactive output or remind us that we got this.
I
So
think,
I don't think it's a bad suggestion.
I think that connection with the council is something though that we can collective handle and,
I agree.
but, turning back to the conversations we've already had this evening. Right,
Okay.
right.
We're putting it on the list is something we can.
Yeah. Okay.
Communicating and reporting, page 5.
We just covered that.
Yeah,
I
pretty much
think-
what we just talked about.
I feel like a lot like Mike does, frankly. If we record them, all that takes me a long ways down the road. Appointment process. Bueller?
I would just like to note that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 includes that they will be formally approved or to be formally approved or rejected by the village council at council meeting. Stayed maybe a little holdover from our earlier conversation, but I think it is important that we as commissioners understand that power. I will speak from recent experience where a board member was not too kind to me in public, and certainly not too kind to Commissioner Sadowski-Few. And so that process of reviewing those board members, not that that's going to solve all, but is important, and that we retain the right to hold off on somebody. But I do agree that it is the mayor's, it's a good idea to have the mayor make the nominations, because I believe, not least of which, the efficiency of that is super important. And I will say, he has shared that experience with us. He's given us commissions to review candidates.
Yeah, that's a
And
good process.
I feel I've been very satisfied with that process. So,
Same.
I have that as well, my short time.
So that's gonna stay pretty much the same.
I'm fine with that.
Removal process.
So, this is one that.
This isn't an ordinance, yeah.
I'm not sure how to change, what to change exactly. But I can tell you that in my short experience here, being involved in a removal process, I would have appreciated a little bit more guidance on what kinds of things constitute or removal?
So-
Like why, you know, and.
Grounds, you mean?
Grounds for, yeah, thank you, grounds for removal. Knowing that there's no way to list off everything,
Right.
but it seems like there ought to be some sort of like baseline general
So
stuff.
I think this goes back to where Chris was asking if we have a code of conduct. You know, I don't know if it's necessarily part of the process, like this is a very, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like this is our strict
Yeah.
process and I
Yeah.
think it makes sense because it's based on the appointment process is how you remove. But I agree, I think the code of conduct or something that we have would help us in that process. Because then we would have kind of something written down that we could point to and say,
Could we
these are
just
kind
add
of the
4 cause?
expectations that we have.
Couldn't we just add 4 cause and then have a list of causes and then one catch-all at
Oh
the end?
boy, that would be a nightmare.
By saying 4 cause?
Usually just setting ourselves up for fights.
Yeah.
So when we
So-
argue, we don't have cause.
So the
Yeah.
opposite is at will, so you don't need grounds if it's just at.
Well, and it is
Right.
at will
Which
currently.
is kind of where we're at.
Yeah.
We're
But-
at will
but I
currently.
think, I don't wanna speak for you,
Go
but I
ahead.
think what Mike's saying is not that there have to be these enumerated causes, but Mike would like more guidance to what he should consider. It's at will.
Yeah.
It
It's
is
at
at
the
will.
pleasure. It's at the
Oh.
pleasure. But it's like, okay, but
Oh.
how do I process that?
Yeah.
I think is
You
what he
don't-
was getting
Don't
at.
write that
It's so,
down.
I mean, we've been, the village has been through a series of
will is at will.
lawsuits and it's at
Yeah.
will.
But the code of conduct, I think is
I
kind of.
think
a-
would help
I think
you.
that
That's
would
something
help.
that you can
That
point
would
to,
help.
that's
That
a
would
You
help.
way
have
to
to
say,
if it's at
look,
will. Our lawyer's nodding, you don't have to if it's at will.
Understand.
No, that's
There
not-
Don't open the
But
can
if
of
it would
worms.
help you,
There were, here's what's bound to happen again. So history repeats itself. We all had sort of different levels of, does this, different thresholds. Does this really rise to the level of removal, right? And I think it would have been helpful if there was some sort of like baseline understanding. So with a code of conduct, I could see where if for instance, you're expected as a board or commission member to attend X percentage of meetings or something like that, right? That would help to maybe state whether or not somebody's attending enough or not attending enough. You're generally something you could point to as this is this is a cause. I can see where this is something.
I don't
And that
think
makes
you
it
wanna,
4 cause.
yeah, you don't wanna be talking about cause.
So you could have,
Yeah.
I think it's better to just have a list in your head to what's acceptable or you're not, because whenever the removing authority makes their decision at will, the only things that they can't be basing it on are racism, sexism, bloody, protected classes.
It's pretty important to leave this really council will. If you wanna have this code of conduct in some other section that is somehow in the handbook of how to become a
The
board member.
expectations of board and commission members.
Right.
It's not gonna be a
Yeah.
for cause.
Right.
If you don't
Right.
do this, you're gonna get
Right.
removed. But it's gonna give people an expectation of how we
How to
expect you to
behave
act.
ourselves.
That's what
And in
I'm
your
saying.
head,
I'm in agreement
it'll
with
allow
that.
you
so
to
like
make
that, like the,
decision.
yeah, so the board of trustees just redid their bylaws or whatever, they have one in their own bylaws, right, so, yeah.
I mean, is it kind of in the same way if we had a document that had code of ethics and expectations in the way that like the comprehensive plan is sort of a check against when we're approving things, like doesn't always have to, that's a check on what.
But it's not the be all end all.
But it's not, we could still vote for something that didn't hit on that. I agree, and I think you probably
we
do
wanna
too.
open
I do
legal
too.
can of
I
worms.
take away the at will.
I don't have
Why
to have
we're
a reason.
elected,
I
my
get it.
reasons and your reasons don't have to match.
Correct.
If we say the same thing, we're saying the same vote. But I do understand like sort of
Be
wanting
challenging.
to, I think the code of conduct, in my view, will cover that.
I suspect if that had been in place, they wouldn't be saying what I'm saying right now.
Right. There you go.
So I'm good with it.
Let's continue. It's really, it's really the bulk of this.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's the meat
The
of it.
rest of this is a summary or a charter kind of stuff that
Yeah.
you're talking about. Alright, so it's most likely gonna end up a high priority.
Can I just raise one more thing, because I think we talked about it a little bit at one point about the downtown management group and the EDC. So there was a time when we had liaisons to those groups. Obviously happened to the EDC.
Downtown management.
Yeah.
EDC was always structured kind of like it is.
That's in the bylaws.
I'm not sure, I'm not following what you're saying, it's in the bylaws.
But when the EDC was created,
Yeah.
it has board members that are by definition, if I remember correctly, members of staff and
Yeah.
mayor
Yeah.
and designee. So it's built into their,
Into their
DNA.
bylaws.
where
From-
that's not the
from us.
case with downtown management. But yes, there's a staff liaison, if I remember their agreement.
There's a council
Mike's
liaison.
been, yeah, I know there was, but I don't know if it was in the agreement with downtown management.
So we talked about the downtown management having a liaison,
Yes.
it no longer does, so I think this is maybe, I don't know if this is the appropriate
Yeah,
time
sure.
to talk, okay. Whether or not we wanna add that, we spent
Yes.
an inordinate
Yes.
amount of
Yes.
time focusing on downtown. I don't mean that in a negative way, it's the jewel, but maybe it
Yes.
makes sense to, yeah.
Yes.
So thinking about that. The other thing is, I will say, I do have a little bit of an issue with the agreement with the EDC and the downtown management group, that it's sort of their rules that dictate who sits on there from us. And the reason I say that is because we fund those groups. So currently, I think the EDC board is appointed by the mayor with no council approval. Yet this council funds the budget of the EDC in many ways. So again, I am not trying to start another fight, but I do want it to be clear that this is a case where we have a body that we fund, Mike can relate to that we as a council don't actually have a say in who sits as the liaison. It's the mayoral.
The liaisons are the board members.
The board members, sorry, the board members.
So when it was created, I guess I'd be interested to know why it was set up that way in the first place. So,
Maybe we need another history.
yeah. You don't have that answer? I kind of depend on you.
I spent a lot of time on a different topic, I don't have the answer on that,
Oh,
maybe
brother.
Bob does.
I don't know the straight answer to that. What I can tell you is that like many things, that EDC in particular is an evolutionary, that used to be a board and commission.
Yeah.
Okay,
And there was, so it was a very evolutionary thing to get from board and commission,
sure.
just like these, to where we are in this moment. And then in the process of doing that, there's been, I don't know how many, I'm gonna say half a dozen, I'm probably wrong, but agreements between the village and EDC on how to function and structure. And in fact, we rewrote those and their bylaws 2 years ago. So I mean, it just,
Yeah.
it would be a little bit of a research project.
Yeah, I think we do need to do that, because the EDC was also set up by definition to be a very different entity than anything that previously it had.
Yeah, and we don't need to get into the details of that tonight. I'm sure I'll find those details.
I think it's a good question.
It's a
but
good question.
I think it's just
Yeah.
worth
I don't
looking at it.
remember.
I agree.
We'll look at that. Thank you, that's all I have.
Remember there was an independence element to it
Yeah, there
by design.
was a FOIA connected duty to
Yeah,
report
no,
thing.
that's available.
Great.
I just don't remember.
All right.
Okay, I think that's good for now for boards and commissions.
That's your
I will take I'll take advice from my esteemed colleague. Anybody from the audience want to weigh in on boards and commissions? We're still gonna turn it into high priority action item, but that means most likely that's gonna happen, and if that happens, there'll be quite a few more conversations.
Yeah.
All right, Dave, I'm gonna hand over to you.
Okay.
Sorry. Yeah, we were all ready.
Thank you, Mayor. Tonight, under the manager's report, we are continuing our creation of the 2025 to 2027 long-range plan. As a reminder, our LRP, as we refer to it, is a unique combination of strategic planning and financial planning that allows us to make strategic decisions with our financial condition in mind. This plan is used every day. It drives daily operations, it drives budget preparations, it drives council policy decisions. It's become a very important part of how we roll here in the village of Downers Grove. It includes our strategic goals. It includes identification of key trends and issues and strategies and solutions to address those key trends and issues. It also includes the council's 18-month to 24-month work plan known as priority action items. We've been talking about these three sections for the past several months. We actually started our journey in June. We're down here in the August and September portion. We're running just a few weeks behind, but that has been very helpful because we just had some great governance discussions that will drive many of these key important things here. I won't go back and read all the goals. Those were updated to align with our extensive guiding DG suite of 4 plans that Commissioner Gilmartin mentioned earlier tonight. We do try to operate at the 30,000 to 40,000 foot level for most of the LRP actions in our flight analogy. This is probably the exception because this is the council's work plan, these priority action items. Arguably the most important parts of the long-range plan, sorry Doug, I'll try to stay in the same position there. The most important part of the long-range plan is this, the potential and the establishment of the priority action items, because this is how this group of elected leaders directs the deployment of resources and tells us as the staff team in the community what we should be working on and what's important to those who are elected to lead this community. By design, all of the LRP is done before the budget process, including the establishment of the council's work plan. That is because the budget largely responds to what's on the list. Council, in really plain English, you tell us what you want to work on, and then we prepare a budget for your consideration that we think provides the resources to get that list done. So this is by design. LRP drives budget preparation. This is a big part of it. Staff, so last go around 23 to 25, this council really pushed us organizationally to do more, which is very much aligned with how we've done a lot of stuff in the past. Our staff is sort of hardwired in our DNA to try to do more and become more efficient. We've certainly done that. The guiding DG was a heavy lift. It was a big part of the 2023 to 2025 LRP and priority action items. So for consideration here tonight, we have identified, and it's in the reports if you're looking online, we have identified a pretty long list of potential priority action items for council consideration. When you look at that list in the report, there's like 30 some odd, there's a heavy emphasis on implementing the guiding DG suite of plan recommendations, right? Makes sense. We just spent 18 months putting together 4 plans. There's dozens and dozens of recommendations. It makes sense that that would be reflected in the list. We added a couple components based on the 2023 to 2025 process, where a couple council members said, you know, it'd be helpful is to get a little bit more information about the projected duration, the projected level of effort, and the staff members who might be working on them, because it was noted that there's just such a wide disparity in those things. Like some priority action items would frankly be kind of small, and they would appear on the same list in the same way as something like, you know, redevelop the entire civic center. So we tried to add that to help the council identify these items. The idea here is to come up with a workload that meets the council's expectation and really stays with that idea of try to do more, but frankly, maybe just a little less than we did in 2023 to 2025. That was such a heavy lift. To help us with that, not only did staff prepare this list of potential 30, which largely came out of the guiding DG, we took a shot at sort of a staff proposed list of around 20. You'll see that in the report. They are numbered in the report, and thank you, Rob, for pointing this out in the call. That does not indicate a priority order. That's just for convenience and to sort of keep track. So that, if it appears number one, it doesn't mean staff saying that's our highest priority. That's not really our role. This is just sort of a list of 20. So what I'll do here now is I'm going to read in detail all of these projects. Now, if you're interested in sort of the description and what they mean, they're in this report. Council is very familiar with this. They've all read it. We did a little review individually a couple weeks ago. So council's pretty well up to speed on that. I will point out though that the S next to it means that particular potential item appears on the staff proposed list of about 20. If there's an IP in front of it, it means this project is already in progress. For example, the micro mobility device regulations, we already started working on that. We're going to put that on an upcoming agenda probably next week or the week after. If it has an R in front of it, it's required, either statutory requirement like lead service line replacement plan, state law says we have to do it, or sort of a practical requirement, have to do it, like our solid waste contract is expiring in several months. So there's a requirement, we got to make sure we have that service. So with that, we really want to hear the council talk about what else do you want to consider for the list? And then we want to get to tonight, if we don't have time to get to it tonight pretty quickly, what is the council's list of priority action items so we can start preparing a budget and a work plan that reflects it. So we already started this when the council just a few minutes ago identified support for this enhanced board and commission project, this systemic approach. I won't go through it again, we all heard it. But that's a great example of a council-driven initiative that wasn't in the guiding DG plans. So with that, I'm going to turn it back over to the mayor. We want to hear from the council and do my little note-taking thing and see if we can come up with a council-approved list of priority action items.
I think we ought to start by determining whether or not there's more things that folks want to add. You can't really look at a priority list unless you know what the list of options are. So is there anything that anybody feels like is missing or that's come to them that they want to add to this list that needs to be thought through?
This be the time that I bring up my suggestions about the landscaping?
Absolutely.
Oh, okay.
And it'll determine it's a
Okay.
worthy, not worthy, rises to that level or doesn't rise to that level, but yeah.
I would like to propose some sort of time, place, and manner limitations on commercial landscapers on private property.
What do you mean by that?
I mean, limitation on times, or time of day, or time of week that can be done. And manner, for example, would be electric-powered equipment to reduce noise and air pollution instead of gas. And place, and this is probably a stretch, is just a consideration of the parking situation that has been developed by the mass proliferation of commercial landscapers, and they're blocking every street. So that was something that was just on my mind. I shared, floated a little bit.
So I'm going to throw one out there. So on the stormwater management side, we have a regulation right now that when you do a project that's 400 square foot addition or larger, there's a number of underground and as well as surface things you need to do for the project, and it involves it's a substantial cost, and in a lot of places here in town, I think it makes a lot of sense. In fact, maybe the 400 square feet is too generous on a 50 by 130 foot lot in certain areas. Okay, so there are other places in town where you're on a huge lot and there's no stormwater management issues in the neighborhood whatsoever, and those dollars would be better invested elsewhere in town where there are problems. So I understand the evolution of how we got this rule, and I think it's been very effective, actually. But it seems to me that we could make a pretty simple amendment to the rule that would vary the requirement possibly based on lot size, so not looking at zoning regulation, zoning districts or anything like that, but simply put, if you're on a larger lot, maybe that threshold for what you need to do changes, or maybe there's a trade-off available. Instead of doing this, you're gonna plant more trees or something of that nature. So I don't wanna make it complicated because staff's time is pretty limited here, and I think that was I wasn't part of the creation of this, and the difficulty in coming up with something that's pretty simply put in place and understood and regulated is important.
So Mike, I just want to kind of make sure I understand where you're going. You're talking about the amendments that were made in 2017 as part of a broader look at an enhancement and increased regulation in stormwater management in general, particularly on residential properties.
Right.
I'm trying to figure out if you're saying your potential project is look at all of them, or are you talking only about tweaking thresholds, the 400, 700, 2,500?
I'm saying, given that we've got a large list of things, and I know our time's gonna be very limited, this is a small thing that we could do that I think would have a pretty big impact in terms of effectiveness.
So just
it directly impacts a lot of people, and
just the 400, 700, 2,500 thresholds and what's.
Yes, exactly.
Got it.
Exactly.
Okay, thank you.
The upper thresholds you're talking about are pretty carefully aligned. Once you hit 700, you're aligning with county stormwater regs.
Yeah.
So this is about our.
So you're just talking not even about you're just talking only about the 400.
I'm just talking about the 400.
Got it.
So even more streamlined.
So it's becoming narrower and narrower. Got it. Understood.
Yes.
400 square foot has to do with the requirement to submit an engineering plan and topographic survey.
You're going to end up doing underground detention, and it's a lot of money. So, and like I said, it makes some sense. And so we, and as well, I said, there are places in town where it's really a small lot. And understand too that there's more I would like to do with this. For instance, you could pave, a lot and not have to do any of this other than county stormwater regs. So we don't have any additional regulation. You want to put a 20 by 20 patio in your backyard, you don't have to do anything. But if you do a 20 by 20 addition, you do. And
So
both
that-
have the same effect in
That
terms
new
of
impervious set of rules.
creating
Yeah.
new impervious area.
Yeah.
And so there's a logic there that I don't completely grasp. But I'm learning from my past LRP experience and prioritization and wanting to, so if I can even just get a little something from you all right, I would be satisfied.
So it's wafer thin.
That's right. So I incrementally get a little bit over time. But this is something that I think we should look at, and it's something that I'm kind of uniquely aware of because of the work that I do. So
I would just add, the builders I know in town, this is a common concern, cost addition, and I would certainly want to understand the value because since 17, I think our stormwater management has done a fantastic job, so I would not want to unplug anything. However, I am also of the opinion that maybe a hammer on all of these is maybe too much. Maybe we need to be a little more nuanced with it. So I would certainly be open to that, but we're not getting into that.
can I just, this is a good point here because I wanted to make a point after everything we went through with the heavy rains recently. I know I'm off topic, sorry, Mayor. But I mean, I would really be interested in knowing, like, you look at how much rain we got in a short amount of time, and I think our infrastructure worked really, really well. And that's a credit to folks that have served and all of the money that's been invested over time, and staff's implementation of all this, and so at some point we ought to take a look at how this latest event where we got I don't know how many inches of rain, 5, 6, 7 inches in a short amount of time, and how that compares with some of the other times in the past, and what the difference in results were. It's worth kind of celebrating a little bit.
I'll give you the shorthand for this, because after all those events, I check in with our stormwater team, our public works team, et cetera. And the rate events we experienced just in the last 30 to 45 days were equal to and exceeded some of the events that in 2006 to 2010 actually overwhelmed our system in many neighborhoods. So didn't do it formally, but for sure that's what happened. And it's the result of over $50 million investment over 15 to 18 years. So we're happy to.
And you want to start taking basins out of the ground?
So,
No, I want to make them more effective.
I agree. Let's
And
do
one
it.
point I do want to make on here, though, is I don't want, if we think that this is simple, I don't think it would be a simple fix. So I do just kind of want to caution that, like, regardless of property size, you also have to take into account topography and if it's a poor
Yeah.
drainage area and if it's, I mean, there's just a whole lot of factors that I think if we wanted to do this correctly, this would not be as small as we think it is.
It probably would pretty quickly turn into a review of our overall stormwater
It would.
management, right?
And so,
And that's where I'm pumping the brakes.
well, and that's why I don't necessarily want to do it unless we're going to do it right. Is kind of where I'm at.
Do we need to get into the merits
No,
of these
I-
things
what
right
you're-
now?
what
or
Yeah,
should
I
we
know,
put
I
them
know.
on the list?
Well, no, but you raise a good point, Leslie.
I don't think it's the small is what I'm
It's-
saying.
it
I don't think
is-
it's a small
Well,
project.
that's
I think it's
understand that.
rightly a high priority action.
It is a high
Because
priority
because
action item.
it would be
It is rightly a high priority
a
action.
variety of things.
It is.
That are, we're not even thinking of this moment that
Yeah.
would be required. So
Yeah.
you're exactly right.
Yeah. But
Anyone else got stuff they want to add to the list?
If there's anything else in here, I won't.
I thought you had a list.
I do have a
Well,
list,
all right
but
then.
some of these things are,
I don't
I'll go.
Self-edited.
Davenport finds his place in the page. And I have a few things I'd like to add. One, I think I want to look at how we can maybe enhance our social services and community support. I think we've seen a growing demand for these services. I'll note that the Human Service Committee actually is active in meeting and reviewing data that we receive every month from our social worker on incidences and support calls. And I may have said this a year ago or 6 months ago, the requests are going up. And I want to make sure that what I consider a successful service of our organization here is given the right resources. I want to try to have an understanding of perhaps how we can do more. What that looks like, I think I would defer to our social worker. Some ideas around if there's technology that would be helpful in terms of tracking cases. If there are stronger partnerships with nonprofit groups, potentially even expanding our staffing on that, whether it's interns or full-time staff, part-time, whatever that may look like. I just want to make sure that we are focused on this in a way that we did not just check a box by putting a social worker on staff, but that we are actually making improvements to the and enhancements to that policy or that group, really group of one. Talk about a board of one, group of one. So to me, I think it's important to look at that as an opportunity.
Hey, Chris, can I ask just for clarification of what this one might be? Right now, we offer only referrals.
Correct.
Are you saying that this might include a look at whether it's beyond referrals and it's something more than that?
No,
or-
I don't know if I would go that far now. I think with the capable staff that we have now, it seems to be successful. I don't know what it's called, the connection rate or the acceptance rate, right? It has gone up, has been going up every year. So it seems to me the process is working. I think I would want to understand more about like where are the gaps and how do we look at those in a meaningful way. So could 2 social workers connect twice as many people with services? Maybe. So I think I would want to look at that for sure. Leslie and I have talked a little bit about the affordable housing analysis. I'll leave that to you, but
yeah, which is up there.
Oh, it's already up
It's
there.
already up there.
It's already
Oh.
up there.
Even better.
Here you go.
Yep.
It also appears on the.
Yeah,
Okay,
recommended.
so the study. Perfect. But don't be looking at my paper, Davenport. Sure, so,
No surprises.
on a different topic, I think we as a village need to take a look at technology, particularly how AI can work for our village in a meaningful way. I think this is a perfect opportunity for the technology committee to dust themselves off. But I
Take it off the list, assign it to them.
exactly. But I just think there are operational enhancements, as well as communication enhancements. I've looked into this a bit, no surprise. There are a ton of pilot programs that communities are rolling out. Most of them seem to be in the sort of communication. You got 100 of the most frequent questions, and these bots can answer those questions in a way that gets people the right information in a timely fashion, reduces staff, all the things that are good about it. Not to ignore that AI also comes with a list of concerns, not least of which is the environmental concern. So I think we need some assessment of sort of that value, because I think potentially AI could help us with some of that, but I wouldn't want to contribute to more of that. And I think over time, those energy things are going to get, the energy use is just going to get less and less as they improve the systems. But to me, I think this is a opportunity that is already here that we should be looking at, especially as a service organization.
I'll just add, regardless of whether the council decides to take on that level of project, your staff recognizes that having an AI policy is important, and we've already started to work on that sort of smaller aspect of that. Nowhere near what you're talking about, but
That's
how we use it, when we use it, how do we disclose it if we are using it? AI is here to stay, and we need to make sure we're embracing it and taking on those issues.
Continual innovation.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but I think one of the reasons municipalities are ripe for the benefit of this is that all of our stuff is public.
Yeah.
Right? Every discussion, other than executive session we have, all the minutes, all that stuff it's all published out there already. So the idea of presenting it in a way or making it findable in a way or to me is a potential I think we need to explore. We already have a bunch of active transportation items on here. I just support continuing to focus on that implementation. And then I would also be interested in looking at bringing back the community grants program. Talked about this a couple of years ago, didn't quite get the traction then, but I think Martin actually educated me a bit more of what the program used to be, which was more in the art space, right, to attract folks in the
Performing arts.
town. My view on it was a little more sort of helping some of the nonprofit partners that we rely on in terms of referrals and things like that, local nonprofits, which Mine is also connected with front door. I'd be open to understanding the pros and cons of both, but I think it's something I'd like to see our community look at. And
I wrote that this time is establish a new one rather than reestablish the old one. We talked about that last
That's
time.
a great clarification. And then the last one that I had, we sort of have this retail analysis of 75th Street. Honestly, I think I want to see that taken further. I think, and there's a couple reasons. I want to look at 75th and Main, that shopping center, Lamont, thank you, as almost a Manhattan project. It's in our comprehensive plan. We've got, I think, a strong vision for what that could be.
Here.
And I think we have an opportunity and maybe some council appetite to push more than just the retail gap analysis. I think that's valuable, so don't get me wrong there.
And are you thinking it's, we have two of the quadrants of the intersection. Are you thinking it's one or both?
I would say both. One is clearly, in my view, a little more
Everybody's view.
pressing, yeah, right, yeah. And I would say, not that I have to justify it now because we'll talk about it, but I would say one of the reasons I'm particularly interested in doing this now is because we have Mayor Barnett and Commissioner Tully on this council right now, who have certainly been around for the many iterations around that. I think could help us shortcut what we maybe have done already and what maybe are some new ideas, which I think can come from the balance of us. So,
So I wrote that, Chris, is 75th and Lamont focus area implementation, right?
Perfect. Yeah, so we can discuss that if anybody else, but I think that's it. I had more 3 months ago, and then when this list showed up, I felt like there were some things that I liked, and we'll talk about them because there are things on here I absolutely want to see move forward, but even I am willing to concede this is a lot.
So there was a library ad hoc committee recently that put together a report.
Yes, on an agenda coming to you soon.
Raymond for last meeting in September, 9/19.
So is that a potential work item here?
It could be. Well, we plan to just present the report when Commissioners Sadowski, Fugit, and Commissioner Tully are in the room, and let them present that report, and then we'll see how the council reacts.
I just want to throw that out as that's something that's going to take some of our time, I think, and consider. And what do we do next, potentially? So, just throwing that out there. I had an idea about trying to look for ways to encourage the unincorporated areas of Downers Grove to be incorporated. So I'm not quite sure how to do that. Perhaps.
You talked with any of those?
Yeah, I know.
Right, take a
So,
lot of kids.
but here's and what I have actually, and what I hear back typically is that, well, I don't want to pay the higher property taxes. So, does that mean that is there some, so if they don't have, I have ideas on it. That's all I'm saying. I've got ideas on it, and that's something I might want to have some conversation about, just to see if it's something that we can do something about.
For some color and background, and not talking about the merits of yes or no, but the idea that all the areas that we could annex just by passing an ordinance, those have all been done.
Yeah.
What's left are areas that would require a different set of actions and participation from the property owners. So that's a little bit of the difference.
You can run a special for the next 5 years. Join Downers Grove now.
Free leaf pickup.
Free leaf.
That's it. I'm out.
I want to lose Martin. It's a topic I want to throw up on the board.
They're going to have that in Woodridge now.
I won't go on about it. Another notion was our fleet maintenance building on Walnut. Moving fleet maintenance to Walnut, getting it out of the downtown area potentially. It's another. It's like I don't think so. It's just this is long range planning. So
Ultra high priority action.
So this is something that I don't, if we were looking to build a new fleet maintenance building right now, that's not where we would put it. And so I imagine discussion about, there must have been years ago discussion originally about Village Hall, moving somewhere else, or maybe building a new one and creating a lot too, and that discussion starts somewhere somehow. So I'm just throwing it up there for some consideration right now. Communication. We just gone through a really great Guiding DG program. We had a lot of wonderful interaction with the community. We've talked about our boards and commissions and how we can better make use of them and assist really in communicating what we're doing, what we're about. But you know, I wouldn't mind looking at ways that we can even do more with community engagement, getting community input for what we're doing. So, and I think Doug does a great job, and we have some avenues that we use, but I'm wondering if there's something more we should be doing there, something different we should be doing there. What
Or use of the
lessons learned from
techniques
the
that we
last
use sparingly
2 years.
to actually use them
Yes.
more proactively.
Their
Yep.
job for the Technology Commission.
Yes, so, but I think that's something that we ought to be thinking about.
Those are gonna be
Otherwise,
full up by the time we get done.
I think, and you know, you hit on the AI stuff. I was curious what, I mean, cause I have, you almost verbatim said some of the things that I was thinking about as well. Even if we don't take it up as a standalone, there's probably, it could be, should AI exist as a standalone thing that we're looking at? Or should it exist as something we're looking at with everything else we're doing, right? So, yeah, so I don't think I have anything else I wanna throw up on the board other than that. My digital sign's up there, so I was happy about that.
That's why I haven't added anything.
Yeah. Most other things that I had on my list, a lot of them are buried in things that are already up there. to some
Mike,
extent.
on the community engagement thing, I just want to make sure I understand, because I may have something that is the same. So you're not just talking about better ways to push communication, but are you also talking about ways that we can better receive feedback?
Yes.
Okay.
No,
Yeah.
yeah,
Okay.
engagement.
Yeah.
So
And
this is the two-way conversation you're
Yes.
talking about, right?
Okay. Yeah.
And I mean, this is your wheelhouse.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Okay. I agree. Yeah. For sure. More to come. I think I'll have more to come next time we talk about that, because I've got an
For
idea.
sure. I think we'll all be talking about all these things in much
Yeah.
greater depth, right?
Martin County.
Yeah, right?
All right. Anybody else want to add for now?
There.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, we're running out of
No,
board.
there's a one whiteboard limit, that's it.
So,
We're gonna need a bigger board.
Board projects.
Well, this is the one all up on the wall and.
yeah, that's exactly right.
Yeah.
That's exactly right. So the next thing that has to happen, right, is 7 of us have to figure out what we're gonna do, and it's probably not gonna be everything. So how we get through that is probably gonna be a couple of conversations, despite the fact Dave would like to leave tonight with a work plan. That's probably not gonna happen, especially since we've added 8 or so, or something like that. But it seems like maybe if you assume that all these things are appropriate things that have some value behind them, which I think is true, every one of them, then we have to figure out what these 7 heads all can get their arms around and start having some nodding agreement on. So I'm thinking one next step, and I don't know if the additions were ready for this tonight, but the next step might be that we all come up with our list of 10, 15, something like that, and start seeing where there's alignment, because you may find that if there's, what was the number, how many did you count, Martin?
I stopped counting.
Good call.
So if there's 35 things up there, right, there might be 10 of them
No,
that,
there's probably 40.
everybody says, yeah, those have to be in the top 10.
Yeah.
And then we might all of a sudden have a lot of
Put together like the
cats
Venn
running around from there on out.
We need an updated list because I definitely didn't take all those notes.
And
Absolutely,
And
yeah.
is there an opportunity for maybe some
video.
thoughts on which ones we know will definitely rise to priority action items, and maybe some things that you think we might be able to get done just as a new business item? If there are any.
So the council members who have introduced new ones, you might get a call from us as staff to make sure we captured it, right? And then we'll get that information, like the description is such an important
Yeah.
part to Commissioner Saskia point.
Right.
And we'll get you that information, so when you are putting together your list, we'll have a common understanding of what that is.
Yeah, we need the IPRS commentary as
Yeah.
well as the magnitude
Well,
commentary.
right.
Because we're obviously gonna be doing the in progress.
Well,
And we
right,
are.
so we can take, and then I think it's important, because I think we
Really
need to
are
put the
happening.
ones that are required and in progress, unless someone's suggesting here we're gonna stop something that we've already started,
No.
that's already a healthy list of 10.
Yeah, exactly.
Good way of looking at it.
A healthy list of 10 with varying bandwidth.
True.
Yeah.
True,
So it might help
I'm
to
not saying it's
even,
not capacity, I'm,
Yeah.
but it might help to start like with those
Yes.
and have those maybe at the top even of the list so that we kind of have an idea of
Sure.
what it looks like for the things that we know we're not gonna stop.
Yeah, I think
So-
everyone here is gonna agree, those are great.
No,
They're-
yeah, we're not
they're
gonna
on
stop.
everyone's
So in
list.
addition to those, we should come up with a list of 10 to 15.
Yeah, right.
Okay, by when?
Sounds like a teacher.
Half
I
hour.
know.
Just gonna be on the test.
By when?
10 o'clock, something like that,
What's that?
10 o'clock.
So
You got time.
I'll make a suggestion, might be a little premature, but I think one of the things that could possibly happen is I could put a list of 10 together and I could even rank them into my priority. But it's gonna take the majority of us to agree to put it on there. And maybe just said simply, if we get to a point where we have gone through all these, we have the explanations of all of these, and we're trying to decide what to pick, should we look at a method of rank choice voting? Because I think there may be some things that don't make the list based on me, but I might have supported something that Mike said that my added vote would have actually flipped it and made it a priority. So I haven't really thought through that much, but I think ranked choice voting is a method of which where I could assign values to all of the ones I like, and then everyone does the same thing and you put them in a machine. Maybe it's not the final determinant, but maybe it gets us to, based on everyone's input, I don't know.
I think,
I think it's a cool kind of approach.
I think top 10, 15 is just getting us to the next conversation.
Yeah,
And we're gonna see the similarities, and that might get us to pare the list down to the
Yeah.
point where, okay, now we're talking 5 or 6.
If we take
And if it's all over,
IPRs,
then you
we
should
take
approach.
IPRs and we all say those are happening.
Yeah.
And then we each rank the rest of them. I don't know how we're not gonna end up at a list, I think we
I think
are.
yeah,
yes, that might be a
definitely
simple
should
way.
rank the list though.
And then,
My experience last time was that there may have been some that would have made the list had I had an opportunity to say, well, no one likes my close Main Street down idea, but that's what I had on my list. I would have ranked, if I had known that there were 3 others who were interested in build a bridge across Ogden, I might have put weight behind it.
Yeah.
Because I knew it was more likely to get done.
Yeah,
So maybe you're right, maybe the list of 10 to 15 is the right way
And
to
rank
go.
them.
for a first cut, and
Yeah.
then we
Yeah.
also have to talk about
Yeah.
your point.
Yeah.
They're not all equal
Yeah.
heft.
yeah,
That's what I mean, it might be premature, but I think if there's a way that we can try to put in the process a way to
yeah,
It also,
I agree.
it also
Have
can
some
give
weight.
staff a chance to tell us, all right, these are your top 10, 15, this is where we see the work coming in on those, what's reasonable.
And one of the things we learned last time in this is that there's a very big value to having that conversation with all 7.
Yeah.
As Chris
Yeah.
was just talking about it, so we're hearing you right.
Lessons learned.
What staff will do to help the council with their homework assignment is for any of the new ones that got added here tonight, treat them the same way that the existing list was in terms of the description, duration, effort, staff department, so you can
That's a
get
good
the
idea.
context that Chris has been talking
Yeah,
about
that's helpful.
and others. We'll
Does
get that out to you right away.
Does anybody feel like there's something in process that they don't wanna finish?
No.
No, I think it's-
Well, I
That's
wanna
the
ask the
problem.
question. I'm not surprised that the answer is no, but I think it's a question to ask.
Yeah,
We're
right.
gonna come up with a list that's gonna leave a lot of stuff on this board
Sure.
off. That's what's
Yep.
gonna end up happening.
I don't see anything.
Is there any value in us identifying individually things that we absolutely have no interest
I mean, we did that last time.
That'll come with the first cut.
Yeah.
I think it's gonna be
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's probably it for tonight. What more do you want from us?
For now?
That could help.
We have what we need. We're gonna do a little bit more work. We're gonna get it out to the council and to provide the time necessary for this homework assignment and to recognize that our next meeting will likely have 2 council members remote, and it's easier to do this work in the room together. We'll aim for the end of the month meeting, so not next week.
The 16th.
The 16th-ish we'll
We should all
put
be
it to.
live.
Yep, we should all be here.
Yeah.
That's all we have. Thank you.
Anybody that's stuck with us for the evening wanna weigh in? Just, let's just kind of one at a time stand and do exactly what Ken's doing. Oh, man, I didn't mean it. Don't do what Ken's doing.
You have to, you just stand right there. You really can stand right there.
Thank you for this opportunity and public comment. Particularly thanks to Dave and Mike who spliced in a little of my 2 slides. So, talking about the priority action items, yeah? Yeah. For you so we can keep on going. Oh, okay. Would that be better? I think so. Okay. So when the list came out, I thought, gee, you know, as someone who's been a tree advocate here at Downers Grove for some time, the last couple of years have been kind of a roller coaster. We had the tree protection ordinance on the priority action list last time around. But then other things kind of squeezed that out. We didn't get to it, and then now it's on the potential action items, but not on the list that staff is recommending. So I wanted to be here and speak to that for a couple minutes here. I think we've all seen situations like this, where, you know, here's a particular property on Gilbert and I don't know exactly what's planned. It's going to be redeveloped. It, you know, has a huge front yard which was full of big trees until a few weeks ago, when, as part of the redevelopment process, apparently all of the trees were removed. Now, maybe that was necessary based on what they planned to do there, I don't know. But I think we've all seen situations like this where it seems like the first step is, oh, first let's get all the trees out of our way. And this is something that we can affect in a positive way with a well-crafted ordinance. So could you do the next slide, please? So I had the honor of speaking briefly at a Greener Grove meeting the other day, and I asked for a show of hands, who likes trees? And all the hands went up. I mean, everybody realizes that trees are necessary and important. They affect our neighborhood aesthetics, our microclimate, stormwater, our leafy neighborhood look and feel, and you know, not to mention global climate change. They absorb carbon from the atmosphere. So, you know, the recommendation to the other item on the list relating to trees about reviewing and upgrading our parkway trees is a great advance, a great thing, but it doesn't reach the approximately 70% of our trees that are on private property. So I just want to advocate for, you know, a reasonable, well-crafted tree ordinance to be considered. Many of our surrounding towns have already done so. Glen Ellen, Hinsdale, Lisle, Naperville, Westmont, Wheaton, and Woodrich all have tree protection ordinances. You know, why are we behind the curve on this? And I would say because those towns and many others in the Chicago area have tree protection ordinances, it means that the builders and developers are already used to having to work with them and to work with these rules. So it shouldn't be an undue burden. It's an easy lift in terms of information and models to work from. There's the Chicago Region Trees Initiative, which has a set of model ordinances to work from. And in fact, our own staff have done a lot of research on this already. And there was a report in 2022 that gave a number of options and analysis for how this could work. And one of its key findings was that a private tree ordinance could allow for reasonable development and construction activities and not cause an unreasonable economic hardship on private property owners. And the way current ordinances work, they're not unduly, coercive, but rather encourage tree preservation through proper planning, assessment of the trees on a property and how they can be preserved through the construction permitting process. And lastly, just this is in our wheelhouse in terms of environmental sustainability. We have many, statements of policy and we have our environmental sustainability plan, and we have the kind of the infrastructure in place to be able to do this work, to come up. We have a committee, a staff person, and a bunch of policies on the books already that could serve as a basis for developing this particular item. So I'd be really would appreciate it if that could be included. Thanks.
Thank you. Others?
Could you leave the slide up? Can you go back to the last slide? It's so apropos. Hi, everybody. Thanks so much for all the work that you're doing. My name's Louise Kelly. I'm a resident here. And I'd like to add to what Ken said about the private tree ordinance. Love to see that on your long-range plan. And when I think about it, a song comes to mind. Does anybody know Joni Mitchell's Big Yellow Taxi? I thought I'd sing a little bit of it for you. And I thought that slide really demonstrates the point of the song as well. Don't it always seem to go that you don't know what you've got till it's gone? They paved paradise, put up a parking lot. They took all the trees, put them in a tree museum. And they charge the people $1.50 just to see them. Don't it always seem to go that you don't know what you've got till it's gone? They paved paradise, put up a parking lot.
Anyone else?
I'm just gonna go up because we moved to Dallasville about 10 years ago, and our home is a modest home. It's, it serves our needs for two people. But what attracted us were the oak trees in our yard, and I mean they're just absolutely majestic. And there's one now that's dying, but it's not on my property. But it's these acorns are coming down and everything. And I'm still, if you remember, I'm the woman who came and talked about the nails and the guy who was developing this house down the street. And they had to remove all the trees because they had to put a big house there. But they also they removed this beautiful pink blooming bush in the springtime. Because why? Because those freaking people didn't know what that beauty was going to be because it wasn't springtime and the bush had already bloomed. And the only reason the tree stayed was because it was straddling their property and the people next door, and they wouldn't allow that to be torn down. But the trees and all the oak trees in the forest preserves here, I mean, this is why a lot of us, we buy our houses here in Downers Grove. We don't go somewhere else because they don't have the beauty. They don't have 100-year-old oak trees in their yard. And the squirrels and all the wildlife we have in our yard. You know, you just can't beat it here. So please, I mean, I know that's gonna be a majestic house, but it won't be anything like my house I have. So help us save our environment. So.
Linda Schranz. I just want to say that 4 years ago, we sat in another building and you guys were all doing this. And there was a whiteboard that was very similar. It had about 30 some odd items on it. And I remember one of the council members at the time said, well, we can't possibly do all this. And yet you guys were able to get the list to a manageable amount, got a lot of stuff done. The staff, as you say, had just really buckled down, did all that they could. And so I'm looking at this and I'm thinking, this is very similar to 4 years ago. And you guys made a great decision then, particularly with the Guiding DG initiative. And I think that you're going to make the right decisions again this year.
Can I speak from here?
Sure.
Okay. I want to speak to what Ken opened up and what Louise, I won't be able to sing, and you can thank me later. But I'd like you to look a little even beyond the tree preservation idea to canopy preservation or urban forestry preservation, urban forest preservation. And it's one thing to save a beautiful, majestic oak, but what about in 30, 50 years? That tree's gone. And, you know, if we have this kind of development, we need to look at, you know, what can we do that will continue the trees, the forest, Downers Grove in 20 years, in 30 years, in 50 years, and 100 years. You know, we are all beneficiaries of those who planted trees 20, 30, and 50 years ago. We need to keep looking at that as part of this overall thing. You have up there public practices for tree care, private tree regulations. You know, from an ecological, environmental standpoint, nature doesn't follow property lines. You know, it's the entire community that we need to be looking at. So, you know, and because this community is also an urban forest, there are a lot of other things that go into it. You know, we've done tremendously. It was mentioned many times earlier tonight, the improvements, and I have some personal firsthand experience with flooding issues in this community from about 40 years ago. We are, you know, amazingly past all of that. I can remember going out when the rain, my phone rang. It was part of my duties. But that isn't happening, as we just heard. But tree preservation, tree practices, and stormwater issues butt heads. It's very difficult to maintain trees and stormwater. I'm not saying one or the other, but they need to be talked about at the same time. You can't look at one in the vacuum and the other in a different vacuum. So, you know, whether we're looking at a practice or program that we want to keep our forest here, which I think we all do. Ken mentioned that, you know, I think everybody in the room raised their hand when they like trees. But we also like that our basements are dry, and I get that. So, you know, we need to not refine our thoughts too small. If we really want to look at, you know, our urban forest in the long term, it has to have some thoughts to those other issues. And that includes planting and care as we go along. This council and the village councils for the 50 years that I've been familiar with Downers Grove have done tremendous things for the urban forest that's on public land. But, you know, we really need to be a little bit more ecological in our thought and say this entire community is an urban forest that we need to be working on together. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Can I speak from here?
Steve started it, I want to continue that ecological idea. I was thinking a few minutes ago, well, if we give each of you $1,000 and you get to spend as much of that 1,000 as you want on any of these items, and that's one way to prioritize them. And then the question becomes, like what Ken started, what Steve finished, is why did you put your money there? But to get some priorities, that's going to be a challenge. There are just too many things to do, but you'll do them all. But if you can get those priorities down and get the community engagement that I just saw on the whys of the priorities, then I think that's going to be a combo that will enable the important things to get done. And maybe the less important things to get done some. But I think the key in the long run is going to be, sorry, you're stuck with choosing priorities and then making the rest of us believe that you chose wisely. I think that's thanks.
Anyone else? Okay. All right, well, thanks for sticking with us tonight, guys. Long evening for everybody. Appreciate you guys staying. Is there a motion to adjourn?
Move to adjourn.
I mentioned two small things.
Yeah, I can't believe I didn't do that. Yep. We're not gonna take that motion to adjourn because Leslie reminded me that we're a council member. And
I'll substitute my
And the
motion.
council member reports are
Council member
important.
report.
Yeah.
When there aren't any, that's great, but when there are, they're very important.
Yep.
Why don't you start?
All right, kind of with the proclamation for Suicide Prevention Awareness Month. I did have an opportunity to attend the opening of the DuPage County Crisis Recovery Center, which is now open as of yesterday. For those of you who are not aware, it is attached to kind of the county buildings up in Wheaton. And it is available for everyone it's 5 and up for kind of the evaluation and ability to stay so that they can assess if you're having a mental health crisis or a substance use crisis, and then give you a warm handoff. So what a warm handoff means is it's not just here's the next number, the next place to go, see ya. They'll actually essentially take you and physically connect you with the next place that you need to go in order to receive care. And they will also do evaluations, immediate evaluations for children aged 3 to 5, because unfortunately, we are seeing a rise in anxiety, depression, and other mental health crises, even in 3 and 4-year-olds. So that is available for everyone in DuPage County, regardless of your ability to pay. So that it is an incredible facility. They were very thoughtful about the design of the building, the way that they're using their staff. They have peer support specialists, so folks who have lived experience. The way that they designed their substance use disorder area, it was also very thoughtful, just an excellent resource. And it's, as somebody who works in the Clinical Affairs and Workforce Division for the AHA, this literally, when I brought this back to some of my colleagues, they said this is exactly how community-based health should work. The way that they're partnering with the hospitals, the way that they're partnering with other nonprofit organizations. So truly lucky to have this in our county. So the key now is that everybody knows that it is here and that it is available. These are also the staff that when you dial 988 or text 988 for any support, they're the ones who are answering the phones. So it's also important that you know when you're dialing that number, who you're talking to. They're the ones who are, for our county, the ones who are responding to your calls. So just a really great resource that we have here. So wanted to make sure that everybody is aware that that is now open. So it is at 115 North County Farm Road in Wheaton. And again, just truly lucky that we have that. And then the other thing I wanted to mention is that the Grove Foundation annual golf outing is this Saturday. We are sold out, which is excellent. But we do still have raffle tickets available. We have a premium raffle where you can enter to win a foursome at Rich Harvest Farms, which is a pretty swanky members only golf course for a foursome on Saturday, October 11th. So if that is of interest to you, we're only selling 100 of those tickets. You can get that at birdies.com/Grove Foundation Golf, or you can talk to me and I can help guide you there. And that is all. Thank you, Mayor.
No report, Mayor, thank you.
Chris?
No report, Mayor, thank you.
No report, Mayor.
No report.
Just want to invite everyone to come down this weekend when they're not playing golf in support of the Grove Foundation to enjoy the Downtown Fine Arts Festival. Will be taking place this weekend, Saturday and Sunday, from 10 a.m. until 5 p.m. Hopefully it'll be a great weekend. That's all I have, Mayor.
Thank you. Now how about a motion to adjourn?
Move to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We're adjourned. Thank you all. Have a good night.